Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins as a boy named Hibiki runs for his life. He's being chased by a monster, and he tells it that he isn't worth eating. Hibiki assures the beast that he tastes awful, but it's no use. Hibiki knows that screaming won't get him anywhere, but he doesn't have any other option. He just appeared in this area, and he has no clue where he is. Now he's being chased by a ferocious creature, and he has never seen anything like it before. Just then, Hibiki hears a strange voice, and it says that it will just have to appraise the beast. A stat screen reveals that the beast is a horned rabbit, and it's level 1. Hibiki's really freaked out by the voice, so it wonders if he would like to turn off voice guidance. Being left alone is the last thing he wants, so Hibiki tells the voice not to leave him. Suddenly, Hibiki trips, and this allows the monster to catch up to him. Unfortunately for the beast, it crashes into Hibiki's backpack and ends up getting crushed. Elsewhere, an elf girl wanders the forest when she hears a voice. The voice tells her that something precious has arrived, and she can only wonder what this means. Back with our hero, he once again wonders where he is. He has no cell phone service, and the voice from before has disappeared. Hibiki is starving, but he decides against eating the rabbit. He has no way of starting a fire, and he doesn't even know if it's edible. Just then, the voice once again says that it will appraise it, and another stat screen appears. The girly voice reveals that the rabbit meat is edible, and it's delicious in a stew. It doesn't look very appetizing in its current state, but Hibiki decides to take it with him, just in case. Hibiki still wants to figure out where the voice is coming from, and he wonders if it will respond again when he has another question. He asks what this bag is in front of him, and the voice once again says that she will appraise it. A stat page appears, and the girl explains that it's a bag of materials that do not exist in this world. Hibiki looks at the sky and asks what that is, and the girl says that there's nothing to appraise. Hibiki then asks the same about the ground, and the girl explains that it's called the Maze Eater. It's level 273, but there are no more details. Hibiki wonders if this is a mistake, so he tries it again. She responds the same way, so Hibiki is horrified when he realizes that there must be something in the ground. Hibiki wonders if he can be appraised, and he is amazed when he sees his own stat screen. It displays his name and says that his job is appraiser. Hibiki can't understand any of this because he's just a normal high schooler. What is really confusing is that there's the word provisional next to appraiser. The voice isn't answering any of those questions, so he wonders what the voice is. The girl explains that she is his status support, but she cannot answer any questions that relate to personal information. Hibiki then looks at his skills, but there are too many to grasp. Instead, he decides to try them, and he starts with the one that sounds the coolest. Hibiki imagines the coolest version of himself as he uses a skill called Expert Eye. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, so our embarrassed hero moves on to the thing he should have started with. Hibiki invokes the tutorial, but the voice explains that it's already running. Hibiki wonders what that means, but he just brushes it off. He determines that it's time to look at the world map, but he fears that it might be huge. Hibiki's disappointed though, when the map is actually tiny. The map seems to be tracing the route he's taking, and it reveals that he's been walking around in circles. After some exploring, Hibiki's delighted to find a road. It's the first one he has seen, and it means that he will finally be able to get out of the grasslands. Unfortunately, he loses his balance, and he crashes straight into the brick road. Just then, the voice reveals that Hibiki has gained a title. Hibiki can't wait to see what it is, but it says that he's the castaway in an isekai. Suddenly, a new monster appears, and this thing is way more terrifying. The monster's scared as well, but our hero's in far more danger. Luckily, an arrow comes out of nowhere and eliminates the beast. This is the first person Hibiki has seen since coming here, so the voice says that she will activate automatic translation. She explains that this skill will apply to all conversations and texts. Hibiki tells the voice that she can explain it later, but the elf girl wonders if he's talking to her. Hibiki thanks the elf girl for saving him, and she says that it was no problem. She introduces herself as Amalia, and Hibiki introduces himself back. He can only stare at her ears, and he realizes that she must be an elf. Amalia confirms this, so Hibiki assumes that she's a cosplayer. Amalia has no clue what he's talking about, and it becomes clear that our hero doesn't understand his situation. The elf girl realizes where Hibiki just came from, and she can only wonder how he got out. Hibiki doesn't understand the question, so she asks what he was doing in the Maze Eater's grassland. He doesn't even know what that is, and Amalia is shocked to hear this. This means that Hibiki went in there without even knowing what he was getting into. Hibiki explains that it wasn't by choice because he just suddenly appeared there. Hibiki wonders who she is, so the voice says that she will appraise her. Hibiki is stunned as this reveals that Amalia is a real elf. This appraisal also makes Hibiki realize that he's the only one that can hear the voice. Amalia doesn't seem like she even knows that she's being appraised, which means that he's the only one that can see the stats. The appraisal reveals that Amalia is 56 years old, and our hero can't believe it. Amalia explains that a maze eater is a monster that camouflages itself as a grassland. It won't directly attack its target, but it waits for its prey to get exhausted from being lost, then it consumes it. Hibiki is shocked because he had no clue that he was so close to being eaten. Amalia takes our hero in her arms and tells him not to worry. He is safe now, and she compliments him for being so impressive for a child. Amalia assumes that he's around 10 years old, but Hibiki reveals that he's 16. That's way older than he looks, and she can't believe that this tiny human is actually an adult. That night, Amalia apologizes because Hibiki's still hurt about being called a child. He doesn't know what's going on, but apparently 16-year-olds are considered adults here. After they enjoy the meal Amalia cooked, Hibiki wonders what this place is. Amalia is shocked by the question, but eventually she explains that this is the kingdom of Habrashtia. Hibiki says that he comes from a place called Japan, but she's never heard of it. This only makes our hero realize that he really is in an isekai. Amalia can tell that he must be really lonely, especially being so far away from home. She once again tells him not to worry and says that she will take him to the city. As he sleeps, Amalia thinks about how trusting Hibiki is. They just met, but he doesn't seem to be suspicious of her at all. She has never seen clothes like his before, and he's kind of a strange kid. There's something mysterious about him, so she determines that he must be the precious thing that she was told about. As they sleep, we get a look at how Hibiki ended up in this world. He was enjoying some tea with his friends and telling them about how he's an adult now. His friends were surprised when he described the aroma of the tea he was drinking, but Hibiki explained that it was only natural for an adult like him. Hibiki was down on himself because while he has gotten older, he still hasn't gotten any taller. His buddy named Taiki said it didn't matter because all the older girls were still into him. As an example, the girl at the bakery only gave extra treats to Hibiki. Then there's the girl at the grocery store who only ever smiled at him. Summer break was coming up, and it was the last day of school. Hibiki was entering his classroom when a bright light flashed in front of his eyes. Hibiki wakes up, and he thinks about how all his friends are probably worried about him. He notices a bunch of green orbs floating in the sky, and he wonders what they are. The voice appraises them and reveals that it's a spell. It's a magical barrier used to watch over a specified area. It was cast by Amalia, and it triggers an alarm if an intruder is detected. Seeing magic only confirms that it's an isekai, so Hibiki wonders if he can get back home. He looks at his own stats again and wonders what job even means. He uses a dictionary skill that he has and sees that his job was assigned to him by God. Appraiser is an occupation with the rarity rank of B. It comes with the appraise ability, which allows him to identify a target's abilities and traits. It doesn't provide combat skills, so it's a non-combat job. There is no information and why it says provisional, so our hero is still confused. The next morning, Amalia remembers that she just rescued a kid. She remembers to call him a man because she doesn't want to insult him. Hibiki wakes up and gives Amalia the button that she lost while sleeping. He couldn't help but notice that it popped off, and Amalia becomes embarrassed. As they continue their journey, Amalia explains that they're headed to a town called Lowell. Once they're out of this forest, it will only take them half a day to get there. Hibiki can tell that there are monsters in this forest, but Amalia tells him not to worry because she will protect him. She's still impressed because Hibiki was able to sense the nearby monsters. Hibiki explains that it's all thanks to his world map skill. Amalia nearly loses her mind when she hears this because that's a skill with a AAA rarity rank. Hibiki has no clue what that means, so she explains that it's an extremely rare skill. Amalia demands to know what his job is, so he reveals that he's a provisional appraiser. The word provisional makes her wonder if this is some kind of joke, but Hibiki explains that he doesn't understand it either. Hibiki wonders if his map skill is really that great because it only shows him where he's been and if people and monsters are around him. Amalia is stunned because Hibiki can't fathom how helpful that is for staying alive. It's incredibly useful, and any adventurer would give anything to have it. Amalia is then horrified when Hibiki doesn't even seem to know what an adventurer is. He says that of course he knows what that is, but he has to ask the support voice. The voice explains that an adventurer is a contractor belonging to the Adventurers Guild. Their primary work is capturing and eliminating monsters and collecting materials. Amalia realizes that she shouldn't be surprised because she has known what Hibiki really is since yesterday. She has determined that he's a clueless ignoramus with no common sense. She apologizes for forgetting that, but this is even more insulting. She obviously doesn't understand how hurtful she's being, so Hibiki wonders if she has any friends. This insults Amalia now, and she says that of course she has friends. Hibiki says that he is her friend now too, and Amalia is caught off guard. Hibiki casually checks his map and sees that there's a crystal horn rabbit nearby. Amalia is stunned to hear this, and she demands to know where it is. Hibiki doesn't think it's a big deal, but Amalia explains that crystal horn rabbits are far different from the normal ones. A crystal horn rabbit's horn is very difficult to get, and it can be used to make cure-all potions. Those are incredibly rare and can be sold for 200 gold coins. They find the rabbit soon after, and Hibiki uses Appraisal on it. It reveals that the little creature has a skill called Escape. Amalia is ready to approach it, but Hibiki explains it also has a skill called Detect Presence. This is no problem for Amalia because she has an ability that can suppress their sound and smell. Hibiki says it's amazing, but she points out that he's the amazing one. His world map skill detects monsters that are hard to find, so any party would love to have him. Hibiki doubts it because he has a non-combat job. Amalia says that it's not a big deal, and he would just leave the fighting to other party members. He should just stick to the backline support and focus on avoiding danger. Amalia says that she would like to form a party with him, but she quickly takes it back when he doesn't hear her. She thinks about how she doesn't need companions, and it's not like she's lonely or anything. She says that she doesn't need friends, but her actions say otherwise. She plans to get the horn of the horned rabbit, and she imagines how cool she will seem to Hibiki. Amalia vows to get the rabbit, and Hibiki just assumes that she really likes money. As she prepares for the hunt, Hibiki wonders where her arrows are. Amalia explains that her job is a spirit archer, and she's able to turn wind into arrows. She fires a powerful shot right at the bunny, but it manages to dodge it. Amalia is horrified, and she can't believe that it dodged her full power shot. She determines that as long as the bunny has the escape skill, they have no chance of catching it. Hibiki wonders if they can prevent it from using its skill, and Amalia gets an idea. When the rabbit is attacking, it can't use any skills, so that will be their best chance. Hibiki gets an idea of his own and says that the rabbit will be vulnerable if he can get it to attack him. Amalia fears that it will be dangerous, and there's no guarantee that the rabbit will fall for it. Hibiki tells her not to worry because he appraised the rabbit, and it revealed that it's really stupid. Moments later, our heroes manage to corner the rabbit, and it immediately rushes to attack Hibiki. It's completely vulnerable now, so Amalia is able to land her attack. They needed to use their magic and skills to make it happen, but Amalia is glad that it worked. All it took was cornering it to make it attack Hibiki, so Amalia determines that the rabbits really are dumb. However, this means that the rabbit considered Hibiki to be really weak. She wonders if our hero will really be able to survive, and he is shocked. Luckily, the voice reveals that his job level has just increased, and so has the level of his appraisal skill. Amalia explains that he gained experience, so his levels increased. Hibiki points out that she was the one that defeated the beast, but she explains that he participated as well. He used his appraise skill to make a plan tailored to her skills and magic. This means that they accomplished this task together. Elsewhere, we see that the god is pleased to see how far Hibiki has gotten. He has accomplished his first task, but this is still only the tutorial. At the Adventurers Guild, a girl named Ivel has just finished registration. She explains that she already has her first job lined up, which is to find something very special. A while later, Hibiki and Amalia arrive in Lowell City. Amalia covers him up because his clothes are too conspicuous. They plan to sell the horn from the rabbit so they can buy Hibiki some new clothes. They should get at least 200 gold coins from it, so they might even be able to get some weapons and armor. Hibiki wonders how much a gold coin is worth anyway, but that just makes Amalia think he's strange again. Hibiki asks his status support voice instead, so she gives him the conversion. 1 gold coin is worth around 10,000 yen. That's a lot of money, so Hibiki doesn't blame Amalia for getting so excited. Just then, Amalia politely tells her new companion that he should try to refrain from sounding like a clueless, naive idiot with no common sense. She's only looking out for Hibiki because there are people that will try to take advantage of him. Amalia didn't say it in the nicest way, so Hibiki determines that she probably doesn't have any friends. At the Adventurers Guild, some adventurers wonder why Amalia formed a party with a child. Amalia admits that he might look like one, but he's actually an adult. A party called Silver Banner tells them not to pay the others any attention because they always act like jerks. They leave, and they wish our heroes good luck. Amalia tells the receptionist named Jewel that she has something to sell them. They are taken to another room, and Hibiki's amazed by how shredded some guy is. The guy can tell that Hibiki's a bodybuilding fan, so he shows off his muscles. He declares that it's the culmination of all his efforts and perseverance. His name is Balls Deliard, and he's the guildmaster. Hibiki really looks up to him, but the girls don't understand at all. Hibiki says that he doesn't get the same results when he trains, so Balls recommends for him to train his latissimus dorsi muscles first. The girls get annoyed after listening to all the training talk, so they put an end to it. Balls is amazed when Amalia shows him the horn, and he offers to buy it for 400 gold coins. That's twice as much as Amalia predicted, so Hibiki assumes that she will be happy with it. He is shocked, however, when Amalia tells Balls not to take her for a fool. She refuses the offer and says that she won't sell it for anything less than 800 gold coins. The two of them negotiate back and forth, but Amalia is hardly budging from her price. She reminds Balls that she can go to the Adventurers Guild in the capital to sell it, so Balls is forced to offer her 700 gold coins. Amalia is delighted with this amount, and Jewel says that they will have to deduct it from Balls' salary. Amalia is really pleased with herself, and she is sure that this will make Hibiki ask to start a party with her. After Amalia has a wardrobe malfunction, the guys are kicked out of the room. When alone, the support voice tells Hibiki that his tutorial skill has reached the level up requirements. The tutorial skill is a skill that is given to those whose survival rate is low. It allows the user to receive help from a god so that they can learn the knowledge and skills required to survive in this world. Hibiki hears a guy's voice, but he assumes that he just imagined it. Hibiki determines that this skill is meant to protect him, and he realizes that it's thanks to the god that he made it this far. The guy's voice tells Hibiki to keep revering him because it encourages him to work more. Hibiki is sure that he heard the voice this time, and the guy's voice reveals that he's the god supporting him. He's talking to Hibiki directly, but he can't do it all the time. He says that he will do his best to support Hibiki, but it's up to him to take care of himself and to stay alive. Hibiki has a lot of questions, but the god leaves. The support voice then declares that with the increase of his tutorial skill level, the support provided by the guide will end. Just then, Amalia returns, and she is told that she has a designated quest. She seems concerned by the letter, and she apologizes to Hibiki. She has to leave the city immediately, as there's no way she can refuse a request from her hometown. Amalia can't take him with her either, so this is where they will part ways. Hibiki's disappointed, and he wonders if Amalia is the guide that the voice was talking about. Elsewhere, the girl named Ivel continues her search for that special thing. She's having a hard time finding it, but she gets an idea. As Amalia prepares to leave, Hibiki assures her that he will be okay. She has helped him so much already, and he doesn't want to be a burden. Hibiki explains that he's going to try and be an adventurer now. He saw that there are quests even non-combatants can take, and it gave him hope. Amalia is sure that they will see each other again, and she tells him that he can keep her cloak until next time. Hibiki says that she might need it if she has another wardrobe malfunction, and she just runs away. After they say goodbye, Amalia bumps into Ivel. Amalia explains that she's in a hurry because she has to return home on short notice. Ivel can tell that she's talking about the elf country, and she reveals that she's headed that way too. After Amalia left, Hibiki spent almost all of his time sleeping. His phone has died, and Hibiki still hasn't found a way to go back to his world. The god hasn't spoken to him since that one day, and he knows that he can't tell anyone his secret. He doesn't want people getting suspicious, so he has decided not to talk about where he came from. Before going to eat dinner, Hibiki thinks about how all he has is the money from selling the horn. It will run out eventually, so he has to find some work. Hibiki wonders what he's even capable of doing, so he looks at his stats. He questions how good his stats really are, and the support voice advises him against solo combat. Hibiki's delighted to see that he gained another title, but it's not so good. It's called Older Lady Killer, and he has no clue what that means. He also has some new skills called Contract and Medical Book. The voice explains that Hibiki can learn the contents of the medical book by perusing its pages. If he expects to carry out high-level medical procedures, then she recommends that he reads every page. She warns that he won't be able to stop midway, but Hibiki isn't worried. He says that it could be useful, so he wants to read the entire thing. The voice lets out a sigh, and she commences the medical book reading. Hibiki wonders if he'll even be able to read the entire thing, but it's not what he thinks it is. The entire contents of the book are forced into his mind, and he screams in agony. Elsewhere, a maid named Stelia finds Amalia. Amalia greets her loyal maid, who has come to retrieve her. Amalia introduces Ivel, and Ivel assumes that they're in a party now. A few days later, the support voice announces that the study of the medical book is now complete. Our exhausted hero then reminds himself that he's supposed to go shopping. He gets some new armor and thinks about how learning that medical book was really tough. The voice then explains that different skills have different methods of acquisition. Hibiki thanks Status Support San, and he gets tired of calling her such a long name. He wonders if he can call her Sapo-chan, but she goes quiet. It becomes clear that she likes the name though, when she says that Sapo-chan agrees to his suggestion. Afterwards, the Silver Banner party barges into the Adventurers Guild. Their leader's in bad shape because he and a Silver Ruby Wolf took each other out at the same time. He's bleeding non-stop, and his friends hope that the Guildmaster will be able to save him. Unfortunately for them, they are told that Balls is out of town. They explain that they tried every type of healing magic they had, but it was no use. Hibiki sees that the bleeding is really bad, and he wonders if he can use the medical book skill to help. Sapo interrupts and says that she has determined that there's a chance. Hibiki asks everyone if they will let him help, and they wonder if he's a healer. Hibiki reveals that he's actually an appraiser, and they doubt that he will be able to help. He explains that he has a medical skill, so they decide to give it a shot. Hibiki executes the skill, and Sabo initiates the medical book skill called Examination. This allows him to detect that the guy has direct poison in his body. It's a substance found in poisonous herbs, and it will make it difficult to stop the bleeding. He only has about 5 minutes left, so Hibiki wonders how he can treat him. Sabo explains that it will be necessary to restore him completely, including the limbs he lost. She recommends the use of Hypercure and Perfect Heal. These are high-level skills, and the required magic power is 650. Unfortunately for our hero, his MP is at 56. The others are concerned, so Hibiki reveals that they can't stop the bleeding because of the poison. First they need to remove the poison, then they must restore his arm and leg. Hibiki desperately wonders if anyone can use Hypercure and Perfect Heal, but they can't. There are only 4 minutes left now, and Hibiki thinks about what he can do. Just then, Sabo recommends that he use a technical skill called Contract. By asking supporters to temporarily transfer MP to him, Hibiki can perform treatment using the collected magic power. A verbal contract will be sufficient, and he will be able to use the high-level skills. Hibiki understands, so he asks everyone to enter into a contract with him. He explains that they will simply borrow him some magic power, and it will allow him to heal the leader. The others have never heard of anything like this before, but there's no time to explain. They are desperate to rescue their friend, so they agree to form the contract. They manage to transfer 174 magic power, but it's still not enough. Jewel wants to help as well, so she offers to form the contract. Sabo explains that it's possible, and Hibiki just has to declare the addition of more parties. Hibiki says that he will add another party to the contract, and this allows Jewel to help. She adds another 273 magic power, and Hibiki now has enough to use Hypercure. Hypercure cures the poison, so Hibiki uses Perfect Heal next. A bright light emanates from the leader's body as Hibiki goes beyond his limits to heal him. When it's done, Sabo declares that the leader's lost limbs have been restored. Full body treatment is complete, and everyone is relieved. Our hero is completely exhausted after pushing himself so much, and he collapses. Hibiki then dreams about how he was scolded by one of his friends. She was upset because he was always doing things without thinking first. There was that time that he saved a drowning dog, and the time he saved a cat that was stuck on the roof. His friend said that people won't always be there to save him, so he needed to be more careful. Just then, Hibiki is woken up as Sabo tells him that his job level has increased from level 2 to level 5. His technical skill contract has increased from level 1 to level 2. Hibiki then explains to Jewel that he's feeling better now and he apologizes for being a burden. Jewel says that he isn't a burden at all because he saved her younger brother. Her brother is a leader named Jade and he's also very grateful. Hibiki doesn't take all the credit as he points out that he couldn't have done anything without everyone lending him their strength. Jewel counters by saying that it was only possible because of him and he should accept their gratitude. Jewel then reveals that she has issued a gag order regarding this matter so word won't spread. Hibiki is relieved, but he wonders why she did it. Jewel explains that having the ability to use Hypercure and Perfect Heal is unheard of. If word of this got out, it's guaranteed that someone will attempt to exploit Hibiki so they can make money. To avoid this, Jewel recommends that he join a party of adventurers. He would be much safer if he had friendly combatants around. Hibiki doesn't know if he will be able to stay in the city after this, and he doesn't want to bother anyone else. Hibiki knows that he's a non-combatant though, so it might be a good idea to have someone around. Jewel reveals that there's another way, and that is by hiring a bodyguard. In a prison somewhere, a girl holds on tightly to a terrifying beast. The beast tells her not to worry, because he will tear anyone to shreds if they try to hurt her. A while later, Hibiki meets with a guy named Ajar. Ajar is the owner of the Ajar Company, and Hibiki tells him that he's in need of a bodyguard. Ajar shows him a lineup of bodyguards, and he tells him to pick whoever he likes. None of them meet Hibiki's standards, so he passes on all of them. It has nothing to do with their strength, and it's actually because Hibiki wants someone with more magic power. When push comes to shove, Hibiki would like to use Perfect Heal and Hypercure from his medical book. Ajar says that he will go get someone more suitable, but Sabo thinks that Hibiki should look for someone himself. Hibiki gives Ajar another chance, but this guy is a real weirdo. He says that he can smell the scent of financial fortune on Hibiki, and Sabo appraises him. It turns out that Ajar has a skill that allows him to sense how much money a person will gain in the future. Hibiki notices a dark hallway, but Ajar warns him about it. He explains that the options over there have some flaws, so he wouldn't recommend them. They are not suited for work or for battle. They're not able to return to their homeland, so Ajar allowed them to stay at his company. Not being able to return home sounds familiar to Hibiki, so he wonders if they're in the same situation as him. Hibiki says that he would like to see them, and Ajar really loses his mind. The smell of fortune got even stronger after Hibiki said that he wanted to see the mysterious pair. They arrive, and Hibiki notices that one of them is a wolf. He wonders why they are caged up, so Ajar explains that the wolf went on a rampage while trying to protect the girl. It was a misunderstanding, but he had to put him in a cage because those are just the rules. The girl has been appraised, and it revealed that she has magic power. Unfortunately, she can't control her magic, so it bursts uncontrollably without any warning. The wolf angrily tells Hibiki to get away, and our hero is terrified. Sabo appraises them, and Hibiki notices that some of their stats are hidden. Sabo uses Hibiki's expert eye, and it detects a falsification of stats. Hibiki has no clue what Expert Eye does, so he has to check his dictionary. It reveals that Expert Eye is an inherent skill, and it has a rarity rank above SSS. Simply put, it's the world's ultimate appraising eye. It's unprecedented for someone to have this skill, and it's only given when the god feels like it. Hibiki can't believe who was given such a rare skill, and he says that the god has gone too far. Sabo uses Expert Eye and reappraises the pair. This shows Hibiki their real stats, and he is shocked. The wolf has some double S rank skills, but what's most surprising is that he's a level 95 hero. As for the girl, it turns out that she will become a sage. Her status says out of control magic, and it's called Raging Sanctuary. Her powers can't be controlled, so it'll eventually lead to her self-destruction. This skill was granted by the god as a trial, and Hibiki can't believe it. He wonders how the god could give this kind of terrible power to such a small girl. The god simply says that it couldn't be helped because it's a trial for a sage. Hibiki then thinks about how these two have more than enough magic power. His only concern is if he's allowed to make a hero and a sage join his party. The god responds and tells Hibiki to do whatever he wants. Just then, Sabo recommends that Hibiki use a skill called Relief Measure. The wolf has a curse over him, and the skill will allow Hibiki to remove it. Hibiki makes his decision and tells Ajar that he will purchase them as his bodyguards. A jar nearly leaves this earth as the luxurious scent of fortune is so intense that it's starting to choke him. After buying the pair, Hibiki takes them to the forest. The wolf named Claude wonders what kind of terrible thing he will do, but Hibiki explains that he isn't going to do anything bad. He simply wants to help, and he will start by healing Claude. To do that, he says that he will need the help from the girl named Lillian. He needs to borrow her magic power, and she says that she will do it if it can heal Claude. Claude is suspicious though, and he assumes that this must be some kind of trap. Lillian tells him to stop, because this is her chance to heal him. Claude has been protecting her for the longest time, and now she wants to be the one to help him. They are ready, so Hibiki explains that in order to heal Claude, they need plenty of magic power. He asks Lillian to enter a contract with him to share her MP. Lillian eagerly accepts, so the contract is formed. Hibiki immediately activates his medical book and uses Perfect Heal. Claude then screams in agony as his horrific wounds are healed. His arm and leg grow back, and Lillian is finally relieved. Claude is also grateful, so he thanks our hero. He feels much better, but something still doesn't feel right. Hibiki explains that he expected this because Claude is still cursed. Claude is stunned to hear that Hibiki knows about his curse because it's undetectable even to an appraiser. If Hibiki knows about the curse, Claude realizes that he must also know who he really is. Hibiki confirms this as he points out that Claude is a hero. He also knows that in the future, Lillian is going to become a sage. No one should have access to this information, so Claude can only wonder how Hibiki got this power. Hibiki reveals that it's because the god gave him the expert eye ability. Claude is even more shocked now because it's the divine eye that can see the truth. Hibiki doesn't waste any more time, and he uses relief measure on Claude. A dark force emerges from Claude, and the chains holding him down are revealed. The curse doesn't seem to want to go down without a fight, but Hibiki's relief measure is extremely powerful. A pair of scissors appear in the sky and come crashing down into Claude. Hibiki doesn't even understand what's going on, and he wonders if he just ended Claude's life by accident. Luckily, Claude is still alive, but Hibiki notices that his skill only cut one of the chains. The god tells him that this should be expected because Hibiki's relief measurement skill is still only level 1. Hibiki then vows to level the skill up so that he can cut all of Claude's chains. Claude, however, is stunned by how much better he feels. He isn't fully recovered, but some of his strength has returned. Claude takes a knee, and he apologizes to Hibiki for how rude he was. He has been cursed for quite some time, and it cost him everything. He lost his strength, his reputation, and even his soul. For allowing him to recover even just a small part of it, Claude says that Hibiki has his deepest gratitude. Because of this, Claude would like the honor of performing the ceremony of allegiance. It's a ritual in which Claude will devote his soul to Hibiki. He will swear to always be by his side and protect him. That sounds okay to Hibiki, so he allows it. Sabo recommends that they use the contract skill for the ceremony of allegiance. Contracts have the power to hold party to their promises, and it's always useful. They enter the contract, and this makes Claude very happy. With that settled, they begin the ceremony. Claude declares that from now on, Hibiki will be his lord. He promises to protect Hibiki for the rest of his life, and with every fiber of his being. Hibiki only has to say that he allows it, so he does. Sabo then announces that the ceremony of allegiance has been formally accepted by the spirits, and loyalty has been established. Our heroes then amazed as the two of them receive crests on their hands. The crest is given by the spirits, and it's a sign that Claude's loyalty has been acknowledged. The guys look forward to working with each other, and Lillian says that she's really happy. Elsewhere, Amalia sees that her maid is getting really tired. She says that they can rest at a nearby hot spring, and Stelia looks forward to it. However, Stelia quickly changes her mind. Going to the hot spring means that they will have to disarm themselves. Lowering their guard around someone they don't know so well might be too dangerous. Amalia says that she's being paranoid, so they will go to the hot spring. Back with our hero, Hibiki explains that he can't use his higher rank skills without their help. The others understand now, and they say that he can count on them. Hibiki is glad, so he forms the sharing contract. Because of this, Hibiki's grimoire goes up another level. Claude points out that Hibiki has been talking to himself, so he wonders what that's about. Hibiki reveals that he's actually talking to a voice that teaches him all kinds of things. Claude is in disbelief because he realizes that Hibiki must possess the tutorial skill. It also means that his title must be the Wanderer from another world. Claude doesn't know much about the other worlds, but he has heard that they exist. He is still stunned because all this means that Hibiki was isekai'd. Claude explains to Lillian that being isekai'd means that Hibiki has come from a place that is impossibly far away. Hibiki hopes that this doesn't change anything, and Claude says that it doesn't. He will remain loyal to Hibiki no matter what. Still, he can't believe that Hibiki's in possession of the tutorial skill. Hibiki wonders if it's really that big of a deal, and the god assures him that it's not. It clearly is a big deal though, as the god says that he's exhausted because he's using a third of his power on Hibiki's tutorial skill. Afterwards, Claude explains that there are 11 gods in this world. The chief god is considered to be the first, and Claude thinks that this is the one that gave Hibiki the skill. Tutorial and expert eye are divine blessings only bestowed by him. Hibiki's grateful for the god giving him his powers, but he can't help but be worried about Lillian's situation. She has that raging sanctuary skill, and it sounds really harsh. This is the first time they're hearing about this, so they wonder what that is. Hibiki explains that Lillian has a skill that destroys her with immense magical power. Hibiki wonders if it was a good idea to tell her because she got really depressed. Claude explains that it was because of that power that she was shunned by her family. She was then sold away as collateral for a loan. Hibiki blames the chief god for giving her such an awful skill, but Claude says that he doesn't think it was the chief god. Instead, it must have been the god of magic, because she is in charge of anything that has to do with magic. Up above, the god of magic stares daggers at the chief god. He seems to have messed something up, so the god of magic makes him pay. She can tell that Lillian is suffering because of her skill. Unfortunately, once a skill has been granted, even the gods can't easily remove it. Claude is stunned as he realizes that Hibiki is speaking directly to the god of magic. She reveals that Hibiki is really lucky because he possesses her skill called Grimoire. With that, Hibiki can adjust Lillian's magic power. Hibiki doesn't know how to do it, so she reveals that everything will be handled automatically when he activates Grimoire. The god of magic beat up the chief god really good, but that's not enough for her. She wishes that the god of the underworld would take his life so he can be reborn as a serious chief god. The others are glad to hear that when it comes to Lillian's powers, everything will be okay. Just then, Sabo announces that Hibiki's tutorial and expert eye skills have gone offline. Tutorial's fake control is temporarily suspended, and expert eye is temporarily unavailable. Hibiki doesn't understand what's going on, and he just hopes that the chief god is okay. Up above, the god of magic can't shake the strange feeling she has. It's really bothering her because she feels like she's seen Hibiki before. Moments later, Hibiki uses his Grimoire skill on Lillian. To everyone's surprise, this creates a cat out of thin air. Her name is Veen, and she explains that the god of magic sent her to teach about magic control. Everyone ignores the serious stuff because they just want to pet the cat. However, every time Hibiki pets Veen, something happens to Claude. Hibiki points out that he felt a strange aura coming from Claude, but he assumes that it was just his imagination. Veen explains that she is the Grimoire, and she is also a mighty sacred beast. She was created by the god of magic, and she tells Hibiki to leave everything to her. Hibiki pets her again, but this really sets Claude off. He really hates this little cat, but he apologizes for losing his composure. No one else seems to notice how angry he keeps getting, so Veen wonders if there's something wrong with all of them. At the hot spring, Amelia wonders why her father sent Stelia. Unfortunately, Stelia wasn't told about the details. Amalia then wonders why Ivel isn't getting close to them. Ivel seems to be hiding something, but she turns to tell the others that they are friends. A while later, Claude gets all geared up, and we see that his chosen weapon is a spear. Hibiki thought that heroes always use the sword, but Claude explains that with his build, a spear is easier to use. As for his armor, Claude tries to avoid all attacks, so as long as his most vital parts are protected, that's enough. Also, if he wears too much armor, he ends up getting hot. Lillian gets some new clothes as well, and the shop owner says that it will be 25 gold. This is shocking to everyone, but Claude says that it's a great deal. Lillian doesn't want to be a bother, so she pretends like she doesn't need it. Hibiki tells her not to worry because her safety is more important than money. He even tells her to pick out a staff, but deep down he knows that their situation isn't so great. If they don't complete a quest soon, they're in danger of going broke. Just then, Veen cries out because she doesn't want to be forgotten. She wants something too, and the shop owner reveals that the collar she wants is 15 gold. After buying it, Veen declares that it's time for her basic training course. Hibiki was hoping that they can make some money first, but Veen says that they need training. Claude is fine because he's a hero, but Hibiki and Lillian lack the fundamentals to be proper adventurers. Veen reminds Hibiki that she's his grimoire, so she will take care of everything. Hibiki wonders what a grimoire even is, so Sabo explains that it's a technical skill with a AA rarity rank. It allows Hibiki to acquire all sorts of knowledge and abilities pertaining to this world's magic. Hibiki gets really excited as he wonders if he can even learn to fight with magic. To his disappointment, Veen says that he can learn some household magic. Hibiki was hoping for stuff like magical attacks, but Veen doesn't give him a straight answer. Veen goes on to explain that she's a great sacred beast created by the god of magic herself. Her training begins, and their first task will be to get Lillian's magic under control. This will require registering Hibiki as the accountable person. Hibiki wonders how they will even do that, so Veen bites his hand. He is now the accountable person, but Veen tells Lillian not to worry. Her MP is unaffected, but the power of her magic has been reduced to 10%. This is where they will start her training, so they can slowly release her full power bit by bit. Next, Hibiki will have to learn magic power circulation. In order to wield magic, a person should excel at controlling magic power. Magic power circulation is an exercise where two people hold hands, feel each other's magic power flow, and then learn how to control that flow. Hibiki is lost, so Veen just tells Claude to send magic power to Hibiki. Claude tells him to focus his mind, but Hibiki doesn't even know how to do that. Veen tells him to just close his eyes, but there's something more important. She reminds Claude that Hibiki doesn't have much resistance to magic, so he should only send a little to him. The process begins, and Claude screams like a maniac. Magic power flows into Hibiki, and he screams as well. He opens his eyes to find that he's now in a strange place. An elf girl greets him, but she calls him Claude. Hibiki is shocked as he realizes that he has turned into his wolf friend. Hibiki plays along, and he somehow knows the girl's name. It's Anastasia, and he admires her beauty. Claude has been by her side since they were little. Anastasia taught him many things, and they fought in battle together. They experienced so much with each other, and Claude thought that it would always be that way. Unfortunately, he was wrong, as Anastasia betrayed him. She was the one that took his arm and leg, and Claude could only wonder why. Anastasia didn't explain, and Claude screamed in agony. Hibiki wakes up, and he wonders why he's staring at himself. Our hero has completely lost himself, as he still thinks that he's Claude. Luckily, the others are able to remind him that he's Hibiki, and they are his friends. He wonders why he thought he was Claude, so Veen explains that he sank deeply into Claude's consciousness. Claude apologizes because he let too much of his magic flow into him. Veen scolds him because it's exactly what she told him not to do. Veen is a devious little cat, as she wonders if Hibiki saw anything interesting in Claude's consciousness. She's looking for some good dirt, so she wonders if anything embarrassing happened to him. Unfortunately, Hibiki doesn't remember it well, and it just feels like he saw something beautiful. Hibiki wonders what it was, and he also remembers Claude calling out someone's name. Later, we find Hibiki as he's in the middle of training himself to learn household magic. He asks Sabo to show him his stats, and he's disappointed to see that he hasn't learned it yet. Household magic is magic that helps with trivial everyday tasks, and you need the aid of spirits to learn it. If you emit magical energy while doing housework, fire spirits and water spirits gather the emitted magical energy. Once the spirits are satisfied, they will teach you household magic. Hibiki has decided to take the initiative by doing chores. Unfortunately, he isn't even sure if what he's doing is working. Just then the others arrive, and Claude knocks over a bucket of water. It turns out that Claude is kind of clumsy for a hero, but his friends say that it's okay. Hibiki gets it all cleaned up, and he wonders if he's learned household magic yet. The answer is no, so he continues cleaning. He ends up cleaning the entire hallway, but Sabo says that he still hasn't learned it yet. Tanya's delighted to see how clean the place is, so she says that she will give Hibiki an extra serving of dinner. Everyone rushes to go eat, and Claude knocks over another bucket of water. Later, Lillian focuses really hard as she tries to control her magic. Claude says that Hibiki should do some practical training, but he doesn't even know how to use a sword. That's why Claude determines that he should learn how to use a bow first. Hibiki gives it a try, but his attempts at shooting arrows are pitiful. Claude goes into training mode, and he tells Hibiki how to do it right. He needs to stretch out his back and draw the bow properly. It's still really hard to do, and Hibiki never manages to strike the target. It's clear now that archery is no joke, and Hibiki can't believe that Amalia made it look so easy. Claude tells him not to be upset because it's like this for everyone at first. Hibiki wants to take a break because his hands are really messed up now. Claude reminds Hibiki that he has the medical book, so there's no need for a break. They will simply resume training after Hibiki has healed himself. Their training continues soon after, and Hibiki begs for someone to save him. Elsewhere, Amalia wonders how Hibiki is doing. She is feeling pretty good, as she thinks about how shocked Hibiki would be if he saw her walking around with an actual friend. They arrive at a fork in the road, but Amalia says that they should avoid the shortcut. She doesn't want to go to the ruined fortress that's up ahead, so Ivel wonders why. Amalia explains a rumor that says that the souls who haunt it play tricks on anyone who approaches it. Ivel gets an idea, and she says that they should go there. It could be fun, and those are the kinds of places where you find treasure. Stelia is hesitant, but Amalia points out that she's running out of money. Stelia wonders what happened to all the money she got for the rabbit, so Amalia explains that she stored it somewhere safe. Stelia is still worried, but Ivel tells Amalia that they will be fine as long as they stick together as friends. Back with our hero, Lillian continues training, and Hibiki makes him dinner. Lillian would like to help him, so he has her get the seasoning. It was a little bland at first, but now Lillian says that it's delicious. Dinner is served as Hibiki explains that it's horned rabbit skewers and veggie mushroom soup. They all dig in, and it's so good that they want second servings. Hibiki is shocked though when he first tries the soup, and he wonders if Claude cleaned the mushrooms properly. He didn't, so Hibiki fears that he didn't do his other job well either. He wonders what happened to the apples he gave Claude to make dessert, and Claude says that he's ashamed. He reveals that cooking is not his forte, and we see that he didn't peel the apples very well. They're an absolute mess, and Lillian tells him that he shouldn't hide his mistakes. Hibiki points out that adventurers are good at butchering monster bodies for food. Claude says that he's an expert at it, so they can count on him for all their monster butchering needs. Unfortunately, when it comes to cooking, Claude's knife skills are level 0. Hibiki saying this only brings Claude more shame, so he blames the curse. He declares that once the curse is broken, he will be way more helpful. This makes Hibiki wonder who cursed Claude in the first place. Unfortunately, Claude's background remains a mystery, as he says that he doesn't know. Afterwards, Hibiki thinks about how so many things were so much easier in his other world. He decides to devote himself to what he can do here, so he can get home soon. Jessa and Sabo announces that Hibiki has just learned the skill called Bubble Wash. She also has a warning for him and says that he should use his world map. Hibiki checks it and is shocked to find that a monster called the Rushing Boar is coming this way. It looks really angry, so Claude steps up to confront it. He uses his mastery skill called Precision Strike, and he unleashes an incredible power. It strikes the beast, and Claude defeats it with that one attack. He warns everyone that the smell of blood could attract other monsters. They could be swarmed soon, so they need to take care of the body. Veen tells Lillian that it's her chance to try out her magic, so she gets to work. She uses a water magic spell called Odor Isolation, and it cleans the boar. It's Claude's turn now, and he wants to teach everyone how to butcher an animal. Back with Amalia, her and the others have arrived at the fortress. Ivo wonders where the treasure would be, and Amalia goes on ahead with Stelia. While alone, Ivo pulls out her mirror. It reveals that this area truly does have restless souls. Just then, Amalia screams as she has found tons of treasure. Ivo goes to check on them and finds that they're just being tricked. Ivo tells the souls to be gone, and she uses her power to set her friends free. Meanwhile, Hibiki's exhausted as they just finished the butchering. He remembers that he can use Bubble Wash now, so he gets ready to try it for the first time. Everyone is stunned because he's basically going to be experimenting on humans. Claude is then terrified as he finds out that he will be Hibiki's first test subject. Hibiki screams like he's releasing an energy wave, and everyone else screams in terror. Our hero continues his battle cry as he unleashes his most powerful spell. Everything ends abruptly, and we see that Claude is covered in bubbles. The bubbles disperse, and Claude feels like a totally different person. The spell didn't just get rid of the dirt, it also fixed his tiredness. A while later, Hibiki admits to his friends that they don't have a whole lot of money right now. Claude points out that they have spent quite a lot, and on some rather valuable things, like Veen's collar. Hibiki determines that it might be time for them to start taking on some jobs from the guild to make some money. Veen doesn't see a problem with this, and Lillian says that she would like to try it. Claude then says that the magic training has helped both Hibiki and Lillian get stronger. However, since they are just starting out, they will have to begin with rank F quests. A little later, they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, and Jewel officially registers them as a party. She's glad to see that Hibiki found some comrades, and she hands him a huge stack of quest requests. Hibiki wonders why there are so many of them, so Cloud explains that when you're doing quests that offer little compensation, common sense dictates that you take several at once. You will never make any money otherwise, so Hibiki says that they'll take them all. Jewel then shows them one more quest, and Cloud immediately says that the rank is inappropriate. The quest is a capture quest, and the only lead they have is a tail. Hibiki wonders what this person they're supposed to capture did, and the guild worker named Mitri explains that they're a bandit who often targets the wealthy. Hibiki doesn't think they'll have anything to do with someone like that, so they take a pass on the quest. Moments later, we see that Hibiki is out in the field hunting a rabbit. He spots his target that's roughly 20 meters away, and he wonders if he's good enough to hit it. Our hero's then completely exhausted after many attempts, and after finally landing a shot. Claude says that ideally it would take one shot, but this still gets him a passing grade. Jasta and Vina and Lillian arrive, and they're carrying a big haul. They picked a bunch of mechikachika fruit that they happened to find. Vina explains that they can be used as path markers when you get lost in the mountains, and Lillian proudly presents them. She demonstrates how they work by launching one at a tree and leaving its mark. Hibiki is impressed, and Claude says that they should take a rest. As they do, Hibiki thinks about how he must have arrived in this world right before summer break started. He and his friends were talking about going somewhere together, and he wonders how he can ever return to his own world. He has to find some sort of clue, but for now he has no idea where to start. Meanwhile, Amalia and Ivo discuss how they're almost at the border. Amalia says that they're coming to the end of their journey, but Ivo is quietly frustrated. She still hasn't found what she's looking for, and she wonders where a certain woman's soul went. Amalia then turns to Ivo, and she offers her a travel amulet as a token of their friendship. If anything ever happens to Ivo, the spirits will let Amalia know, and she will come to her aid right away. Ivo acts touched by this, and she thanks Amalia. Deep down, Ivo thinks to herself that she can pretend to be Amalia's friend a little longer. Back with our hero, Hibiki decides that they should splurge a little today and get something delicious to eat, since they did earn quite a bit on their quests. This brings back a memory of when they submitted the quest to the guild. Mitri was suspicious because it didn't seem like something an F rank group would be capable of. She even asked if they bought the item somewhere, and Hibiki was offended. It was a legitimate haul, but Hibiki didn't expect her to be so suspicious of them. Just then they run into Balls, and Hibiki's happy to see him. Balls immediately looks at Hibiki and wonders if he has bulked up since they last saw each other. Hibiki isn't really sure, but before he can answer, Balls says that he's going to teach him an effective way to train his muscles right now. Claude, however, immediately steps forward and stops him. He introduces himself as Hibiki's knight and declares that when it comes to Hibiki's training, he has entrusted that task to him. Hibiki's caught off guard by this, and things begin to intensify. Balls disagrees with Claude, and he says that from what he can see, Hibiki definitely doesn't have enough muscle. He says that Hibiki's going to ascend the steps to adulthood now, and more muscle is always good. Claude argues that excessively bulky muscles slow your movements, and building muscle naturally is the best approach. Balls fires back and says that Claude seems to be missing some muscle up top. Balls rips his shirt off like an absolute maniac, and an intense battle breaks out between them. Their battle causes tons of damage everywhere, so onlookers immediately clear the area. Strangely, a girl stays behind and stares at Hibiki. Hibiki notices that Claude is losing, so he asks Sabo to appraise Balls so he can see what his stats are. The appraisal reveals that Balls is a level 75 paladin with some absolutely insane stats. His skills are on a completely different level, and Hibiki determines that he's unbelievably strong. The battle rages on, and Claude is getting overpowered. Balls tells him to just give up, but Claude refuses. Eventually, the two have a realization, and they both acknowledge each other as worthy opponents. Just then, Jewel arrives, and she's horrified by their fight. She immediately uses Cold Cascade to douse them both, and the fight comes to an abrupt end. Veen calls it brutal, and Jewel wonders if she just saw a cat talk. Just then, a woman runs by, screaming that there is a thief. Veen asks Hibiki where his bag is, and he's shocked to realize that it's gone. Jewel points out that he didn't have anything on him when she arrived, and Hibiki says that it was there just a second ago. Their money was in that bag, so the timing couldn't be worse, since they were planning to treat themselves to a good meal. Jewel suspects that it might be the work of the bandit that they were recently made aware of. They still don't have much information on the thief, but they know that this person makes their tail look like a snake or uses it to tickle people. Also, their targets are always wealthy people. Moments later, Hibiki looks at the wanted poster and he wonders if the drawings are even accurate. Hibiki and Lillian are sitting at a restaurant and Hibiki's now dressed in women's clothes. He knows why he's dressed like this, but he can't help but notice that he looks pretty good. Vina explains that the plan is to use Hibiki as bait to lure the bandit. Since the bandit targets wealthy people, the trap is set by deliberately leaving a wallet out on the table. Once the bandit takes it, Claude will apprehend them. Claude is furious that someone would steal from Hibiki, and he vows to never forgive them. Hibiki wonders if the plan will even work, and Lillian says that it's all really exciting. Up in the heavens, the god of magic still can't shake the feeling that she has seen Hibiki somewhere before. Just then, the food arrives, and it's a beautiful honey pancake. Hibiki and Lillian are amazed, and they almost don't want to eat it. Suddenly, Claude declares that they have been had because the waitress is the thief. Hibiki freaks out as he only now realizes that the wallet was stolen. Nearby, the waitress declares that it was too easy as she makes her escape. Our heroes chase after her, and we see that they're following the trail that the wallet is leaving behind. It turns out that their real plan was to use that marker fruit from earlier inside the fake wallet. Lillian's sad that she didn't get to finish her pancakes, so Hibiki promises that they will get more once they get the money back. They follow the thief's trail, and it leads them underground, where there's a secret club of some kind. There are all sorts of shady characters down here, and Hibiki can't believe his eyes. Claude says that this seems like a perfect place for a criminal to hide, so they look around. A guy tries to woo Hibiki, so Hibiki has to turn him down. Just then, Claude pulls Hibiki aside and asks him to appraise the stats of a hooded person nearby that has a tail. Moments later, our heroes confront the girl. She asks if there's something she can do for them, so Hibiki gets right to the point. He tells her to give back what she stole. She plays dumb, so Hibiki tells her that he knows what she did, and the reason he knows is because he's an appraiser. He adds the word provisional after saying it, and the hooded figure mocks him. Claude jumps to Hibiki's defense and says that his appraisals are always accurate. Lillian tells the bandit to just accept her fate. Hibiki then reveals everything he saw in the appraisal. This person is the wanted half-beast man bandit with the tail transformation skill. The bandit pulls back her hood and reveals herself. Her name is Fauna, and she says that the cat is out of the bag. She proudly introduces herself as the bandit with the world's most beautiful tail. Claude is amazed, and Hibiki wonders if he knows her. Claude explains that tail transformation is a very rare skill among beastmen. Fauna tells them that she's aware that they tried to capture her with a dummy purse, but it was already too late. She had taken the real one much earlier, and the fake wallet she stole from Hibiki at the restaurant was the decoy. This means that Hibiki's real money is already gone. Their paltry funds have been completely wiped out, and Hibiki's devastated. Fauna reveals that she lured them into the underground club on purpose, and she tells them that that's what they get for trying to set a trap for her. She sets off a trap to crash on Hibiki, so Claude has to rescue him. Our heroes are separated, so Claude tells Hibiki to go after Fauna. Hibiki chases after her, but Fauna thinks he got caught too easily after he falls into another trap. Fauna reveals that she's an expert at laying traps, and she has plenty waiting for him. Hibiki's now stuck, and he wonders how he's going to get out of this. Fauna mocks him by pointing out that it's unbelievable that an appraiser would fall for something like this. As Fauna prepares to leave, she notices that Hibiki is actually a boy. She's surprised, and she wonders why he's dressed as a girl. Hibiki explains that it was to catch her, but Fauna quickly points out that it doesn't really make sense for him to be dressed as a woman just because the bandit targets wealthy people. Hibiki thinks about it and realizes that she's absolutely right. Fauna says that Hibiki is pretty interesting, so she wouldn't mind helping him. She offers to help him down, but she has one condition. There is something that she wants him to appraise for her. Hibiki wonders if she wants him to appraise stolen goods, and Fauna says that she only cares about real items. They go somewhere, and Fauna pulls out a colored gemstone first. The appraisal reveals it to be a highly pure gemstone, and an ornament that has been passed down the female line of a distinguished family. Fauna is pleased, and determines that it's real. She then shows him some stones that she thought might be pearls, but Hibiki reveals that they're just ordinary stones picked from a field that happen to look like pearls. Fauna is disappointed this time to hear that they are fake. Next, she shows him a silver dagger, and the appraisal reveals that it was made for ceremonial purposes, so it doesn't cut well. Fauna says that it could go for a good amount if it's sold in the right place. She's also impressed by how accurate his appraisals are. Then she shows him one last item, and this one feels different from the rest. It's a wooden bracelet, and it doesn't seem particularly valuable. The appraisal reveals that it has a pattern that has been loved by beastmen since ancient times. It's a token of blessing or deep affection, and the message attached to it says Diana's message. Things get very serious as Fauna wonders what else it says. It says, "Thank you, Oni-chan," and Fauna's completely stunned. She wonders if there's anything else, but Hibiki says that that's all. Fauna is quiet for a moment, and then she reveals the truth. The bracelet belongs to her, and her little sister gave it to her. It has writing on it that she always wanted to understand, but she was never able to read it. She has shown it to so many appraisers before, but none of them were ever able to help her. It makes sense because her sister never actually learned how to write, yet somehow Hibiki managed to appraise it anyway. She wonders if he didn't appraise the writing itself, but rather the emotion that her sister put into it. Hibiki then asks Fauna if her sister knows that she's a thief. Fauna goes quiet again, and she reveals that her sister died. She got mixed up in a battle back home, and that was it. Fauna then turns the conversation around and asks where Hibiki is from. Hibiki of course hides his secret and simply says that it's a place very far away. Fauna tells him that if he has a home to go back to, then he should go back to it. She lost hers, and she will never be able to go back again. She also points out that one of Hibiki's companions is a beast man, and if he came from the same place she's come from, then he surely also has a painful past. After a moment of silence, Fauna gives Hibiki his money back. She says that his appraisals were spot on, and she calls him Provisional Appraiser-san one more time. She tells him that she hopes that they get to meet again, and she gives him a kiss. She says that she looks forward to seeing him in girls' clothes again, and she leaves. Back at the inn, Tanya struggles to get Fauna's lipstick off of Hibiki's face. Balls laughs and says that maybe this counts as climbing another step towards adulthood. Balls then tells him something he heard from the Adventurers Guild in the capital. There's a new, young, and energetic party that's leveling up at an astonishing speed. The king has tasked them with vanquishing the undead, and they call themselves the Corpse Killers. Hibiki thinks that the name is kind of weird, and he wonders what an undead even is. Claude explains that undead refers to a type of monster that has died, but still moves as if it's alive. Hibiki's horrified, and he immediately thinks of zombies. Balls adds that this other party seems to be on a journey from west to east, and they might come to this country one day. Hibiki worries that this means that there might be some undead around here as well. Balls says that he will be fine as long as he has some muscle. Afterwards, Hibiki says that the world sure is a big place. Claude wonders what he means, so Hibiki says that he feels like he ran into so many new things today. Claude agrees and says that he will feel that even more strongly if he goes on a journey. This gives Hibiki an idea, so he says that he wants to go on a journey and meet all sorts of people. Claude asks what kind of people, and Hibiki says that he wants to meet someone really knowledgeable. Claude determines that he means something like a sage. Claude explains that the only sages still active are the sages of the three worlds who have reigned for over 500 years. Claude then asks why Hibiki wishes to meet the sages, and our hero is honest with them. He declares that he wants to return to his own world. This hits the others really hard, and Lillian gets teary-eyed as she realizes what going home means. It simply means that Hibiki would go away. Hibiki never stopped to think about it, but he now realizes that it means saying goodbye to the people here. Hibiki tries to explain himself, but Claude steps in. He tells Lillian that Hibiki never asked to come to this world. He's a wanderer from another world, and it's only natural that he would want to return. Lillian understands, and Claude turns back to Hibiki. He tells him not to worry about anything, and he vows to protect him until that day comes. Meanwhile, Amalia and Ivel are walking, and Amalia says that the people from her homeland will be coming to meet them soon. She knows this because the spirits of the forest told her so. Ivel says that sounds convenient, so Amalia explains that the spirits only answer the questions she asks. This reminds her that one time, a spirit spoke to her first, which was very unusual. It told her that to the east, something precious had been dropped there. Ivo suddenly becomes very interested, and she asks where this happened. Amalia reveals that it was in the forest of Roel. Ivo goes quiet and then tells Amalia that she just remembered something she has to do. She says goodbye out of nowhere and heads off. Deep down, Ivo's really happy because this is her first clue. If that voice wasn't the voice of a spirit, then it was likely the soul that she's been looking for. She's frustrated though, because that means that the trail started back in Rowell, where her entire journey began. A while later, Ivo says that she took a long detour, but it seems that she's finally in the right place. For some reason, she says that Claude is next, and says that since he has lost his limbs, taking care of him should be easy. She tells someone to just leave it to her, and her intentions are clearly not good. Elsewhere, Hibiki and his group have a conversation about their next move. Claude confirms that Hibiki wants to meet the sages, and he says that they have no choice but to go to a city called Terradinus. Hibiki has never heard of it, so he wonders where it is. Veen explains that you can get there once you make it through a dungeon, and going through the northern dungeon from Rowell is the fastest route. Hibiki has no clue what a dungeon is, so Claude explains that it's a dangerous place filled with monsters. Unless they train even harder than before, clearing one will be very difficult. Hibiki doesn't fully understand, but he can tell that it sounds intense. Lillian thanks everyone for the meal, and Ball shows up. He wonders if something happened, so he tells him that he and Lillian have hit a little bit of a rough patch. Ball says not to worry because he has them covered, and he takes them into the forest. He declares that they're going to build some bulging muscles during this training camp. Veen immediately wants to go home, and even Claude says that he doesn't like the idea. However, Claude acknowledges that they do need more training to get to the northern dungeon, so getting some training here might actually work. Balls is delighted to hear that Claude finally sees the light. Claude makes it very clear though that they're only here to hone their skills, and he will not let Balls turn Hibiki into a roided up meathead. The two of them go back and forth about muscles versus skills, and Hibiki just tells himself that he will do his best. Training gets underway, and Hibiki works incredibly hard by doing all sorts of exercises. Lillian and Veen watch him from a distance, and Lillian points out that Hibiki's trying really hard. Veen agrees that considering how bad he is, he's really giving it his best shot. Lillian wonders if he's trying so hard because he wants to go back home. Veen says who knows, but it doesn't matter what he's thinking. Either way, he is still the same person. Just then, Tanya from the inn shows up to cheer everyone on, and Lillian wonders if she ever works. As the day goes on, Claude instructs Hibiki to keep his eye on the target. Claude cheers him on after just firing an arrow, but he wants him to try and hit the target. Claude continues coaching Hibiki with the bow, and he's getting noticeably closer to the target. He gets so close that Claude gets excited and declares that he knew Hibiki could do it. Unfortunately, the next shot misses again, but Claude is impressed by the progress. After a while, Hibiki declares that he is completely done. Claude praises him and says that next time he should aim for the middle. Balls agrees that the training has given his muscles some good work, even if they can't see the results yet. Hibiki says that he also feels like he got stronger, so he asks Sabo to show his stats. He's a little confused though, when nothing seems to have changed. Claude says that he feels like Hibiki should be about to acquire the archery skill soon. Balls, however, says that maybe he should have focused purely on training his muscles instead. Claude fires back that skills are what is important, and Balls says muscles are. The two go back and forth again until Hibiki spots Jewel watching them. The guys think that he's trying to trick them, but it turns out that Jewel is actually there. Jewel freezes them in place and wonders if there's a problem. The training then ends at a nearby hot spring where everyone gets to relax. Claude says that it's been a while since he could relax like this, and Hibiki thinks about what Fauna told him. Fauna said that if Claude came from the same place she did, then he probably has a painful past. Hibiki thinks about it for a moment and decides to ask Claude about it. He mentions that he hasn't heard Claude talk about where he came from, and he wonders if he has family and friends back there. Claude explains that he used to live in the Beastronia Kingdom's capital, but the city was destroyed. It was massacred, and his companions are no longer around. Hibiki says that he's sorry to hear that, but Claude tells him that it was a long time ago. What's important to him now is being by Hibiki's side. Later that evening, Lillian approaches Hibiki, and she's clearly having a hard time getting something out. Tanya understands what Lillian's trying to say, and she explains for her. She says that Lillian wants to cheer Hibiki on because he's trying so hard. The girls announce that they will go clean up so the rest of them can talk. After they leave, Lillian finally manages to say what she's been holding in. She reveals to Hibiki that she doesn't want him to go away. However, she loves him so much that she wants him to do what he wants for himself. Even still, she can't help but feel sad about it. Hibiki apologizes, but Lillian stops him because she knows that she's the one being selfish. She then hands Hibiki something that she made. It's a drink that helps with exhaustion, and she asks Tanya how to make it. She doesn't know what she can do to help him, but she wants to support Hibiki in any way she can. Hibiki is touched, and he thanks her for the kind words. He takes a sip of whatever she made and says that it's really good. Lillian couldn't be happier, and Tanya cries over the tender moment. Meanwhile, we see that Amalia has finally arrived home. She admits that the bath is pretty much the only perk of being here because she hasn't been able to see her father at all. She can't understand what's going on because she thought this was an urgent matter. She also hasn't heard from Ival since she left so suddenly. Stelia then tells Amalia that her dress has arrived and she should try it on. Amalia wonders why there's a dress because they're not having a party. Stelia reveals that they are actually having one because His Royal Majesty is throwing a celebration. Amalia can't believe it as she begins to wonder if this ridiculous party is what the so-called urgent mission was all about. Stelia says that she wouldn't know, but Amalia is furious with her father. She wonders what he's thinking, and she calls him a dumb geezer. Back in the forest, Ival waits, and she realizes that her target is here. It's Hibiki and his group, and they're on a quest to find a silver ruby wolf. They have already taken out several targets, and the wolf is the last one. It sounds really hard, but then Hibiki checks his world map and notices that nothing is showing up. Claude says that this is impossible, but Hibiki insists that there's nothing here. Claude senses something nearby, but it just turns out to be Ival. She screams for him to wait and assures them that she's not a bad guy. Claude apologizes sincerely, and he says that he thought she was a monster. Hibiki is suspicious because she wasn't showing up on his world map, so he appraises her just in case. Ival can sense that she's being appraised, and she is nervous. Claude apologizes again, but Ival tells him not to worry. Claude turns to Hibiki to see if everything is clear, and Hibiki says that he doesn't think anything is off. Claude is glad to hear that everything is good, and Ival gets really friendly. She immediately notices that Claude is a real beast man, and she says that he's really strong. However, we learn that she was the one that did all that damage to him. Deep down, she wonders what happened because she is sure that she severed Claude's limbs. Ival introduces herself as an E-ranked adventurer who's running away from a silver ruby wolf. Hibiki gets really excited because they're looking for one, and he wonders where it is. He says that they can help, and he introduces himself and the rest of the group. Ival greets them all and says that the wolf is deeper in the forest. For some reason, she looks at Lillian and goes very quiet. Ival suddenly tells him that she should be on her way, and she quickly takes her leave. Hibiki and Claude are both a bit confused by how strange she was, and Hibiki checks his map. This time, the silver ruby wolf does show up, and he tells the others that it really is there. He determines that it just wasn't showing up before. They track it down and find it in a cul-de-sac. Claude is surprised that it ran into such a dead end on its own. Just then, Sabo tells Hibiki to use his world map. Hibiki wonders why she would say that now, but he does it anyway, and he is horrified by what he sees. According to all the red dots he sees, there are silver ruby wolves all over the place. Claude is shocked to hear this, and they realize that they are surrounded. Claude screams for Hibiki to watch out, but it's too late as he gets attacked. His friends are horrified as Hibiki lays on the ground covered in blood. Ival watches from a distance, and she realizes something. A certain feeling that she had earlier was real. What she felt is telling her that at least a part of Claude's curse was lifted. She wonders how it happened, but realizes that it doesn't matter as long as Claude turns into feed for the wolves. Back with our heroes, we see that things are very bad as Claude desperately fights off the wolves. Lillian gave Hibiki a potion, but the bleeding won't stop, and she can't figure out why. Veen urgently tells her to use the state maintenance spell to stop the blood, and Lillian gets right to it. Meanwhile, Claude is frantic as he thinks about the situation. Hibiki made that potion himself using the medical book, so it should have worked. He knows that at this rate, Hibiki won't survive, so they need to escape. There are way too many wolves though, so deep down he knows that everyone in their party won't be able to get away. He tells Lillian to get Hibiki to town because Balls will save him. Lillian wonders what will happen to him, and Claude says that he will hold the wolves off. Lillian desperately wonders if he will come find them later, and Claude says of course he will. Lillian creates an earth golem in the form of a lion to carry Hibiki, and they prepare to make their escape. Just then Hibiki wakes up and tells Claude not to stay behind. Claude demands for them to leave once more, and he vows to protect Hibiki no matter what. Lillian takes Hibiki to safety, and Claude is left behind. As he faces the wolves alone, he notices something strange. The wolves don't seem to care about Hibiki and Lillian at all. He wonders what is going on, and then it hits him. The wolves attack as he realizes that they are after him. Claude looks deep into the eyes of the biggest wolf, and he sees the person behind the attack. He is horrified as he stands there trembling, while seeing that the person is Anastasia. Back with Hibiki and Lillian, they are still fighting their way through the forest. Hibiki tells Lillian to stop and go back, but she knows that she can't. Just then, Veen says that something is coming. A silver emerald wolf suddenly appears, and it tries to attack them. They have no choice but to run into a cave, and Lillian uses earth magic to block the entrance. Several more wolves appear outside, and they use their ability to start breaking in. They are quickly approaching, so Veen tells Lillian to use magic again. Lillian uses the arrow veil attack, and she buys them some more time. Hibiki can barely move, but he decides to take matters into his own hands. He activates his medical book, and it shows everything that's wrong with him. His first symptom is hemorrhaging, caused by a damaged carotid artery. The second is highly lethal poison detected in his body, and it's called death poison. Hibiki remembers that this is the same poison that he dealt with before. He tries to use hypercure, but Sabo says that his physical and mental strength are at insufficient levels. That will affect the casting time a lot, so it will take time to activate. Hibiki looks at Lillian, who's fighting with everything she has, and telling herself to keep going. Hibiki gets desperate, and he begs his body to move. In his despair, Hibiki thinks about everyone fighting right now. Claude is alone against an army of wolves, and Lillian's doing her best to keep the wolves out of this cave. Hibiki knows that at this rate, everyone's going to get hurt. He screams at his body to move because he wants to save all his friends. Just then, Sabo announces that a massive level up has occurred. His job level jumps from 5 to 15 all at once. His appraise skill goes up, his dictionary goes up, his grimoire goes up, and even his medical book goes up. Expert Eye and Tutorial come back online, and he acquires a whole bunch of new derivative skills. Most importantly, he acquires a new skill called Summon Sacred Beast from Grimoire, and another called Medicine God Staff from Medical Book. Sabo announces that Hypercure is now ready to activate. Hibiki uses it immediately, and Sabo confirms that the detoxification is complete. Hibiki takes some more potion, and Sabo immediately recommends that he use the Summon Sacred Beast skill. Hibiki doesn't know what it is, but he uses it without hesitation. An immense power destroys the entire cave and sends all the wolves flying. This skill activated, and everyone is stunned to see that a powerful sacred beast has appeared. The beast knows that the wolves were sent here by someone, but it says that the fight ends now. The beast announces itself as Veen Faratiano, and the others are shocked to realize that Veen just transformed. That little cat is now a massive and powerful sacred beast. She declares that she's the sacred beast of lightning, who serves the great god of magic and is in charge of judgment. She announces that attacking her master is punishable by 1,000,000 deaths. As punishment, the wolves' bodies and souls will be completely annihilated. She then unleashes her ultimate attack called Judge End, and she rains down bolts of lightning. It covers the entire area, and the wolves are completely wiped out. When it's over, she calmly tells everyone that they are safe now. Hibiki stares at her in disbelief and asks if that's really Veen. She confirms that it is, and explains that thanks to Hibiki's Summon Sacred Beast skill, she has temporarily regained her true power. Hibiki realizes that in this form, Veen can even defeat the big wolf that is fighting Claude. Because of this, he immediately says that they should go back and help him. Unfortunately, Veen reveals that they can't because they've already run out of time. The spell doesn't last forever, and she transforms back to her smaller self. Hibiki wonders if they can just use the skill again, but Sabo says that it will take some time before he can activate it a second time. Hibiki refuses to accept this as a reason to give up, and he says that they will just have to do something themselves. Veen then reveals that what attacked them was actually a silver diamond wolf, which is even more powerful than what Hibiki was expecting. Unfortunately, she tells him that he doesn't stand a chance against it. This backfires though, as it only gives Hibiki more reason to go back. He says that Claude is trying to protect them, but he wants to protect Claude too. He doesn't want to lose Claude because he's a dear friend. Lillian agrees, so they decide to go back together. Sabo interrupts them and recommends that Hibiki use the Medicine God Staff skill. Veen wonders what's going on, so Hibiki says that it seems that he acquired something called Medicine God's Staff. Veen is stunned to hear this, and Hibiki wonders what this skill even is. Sabo explains that it's a rarity rank double S skill that fully heals all life forms within a certain range. It not only restores HP and MP, but it also fully restores any lost body parts and removes status effects like poison. However, it cannot lift curses, and once used it takes 168 hours before it can be used again. Hibiki doesn't even wait for Sabo to finish explaining before he declares that he will use it. He activates Medicine God's Staff immediately, and it heals our heroes. Lillian says that she's not tired at all anymore, and Hibiki feels much better. Veen can't believe her eyes, and she says that was completely overkill. Just then, a branch grows out of the ground, and a bow falls out of it. Veen completely loses her mind as she realizes what it is. Hibiki just picks it up, but Veen tells him not to treat it so casually. Sabo announces that Hibiki has acquired a new skill called Spirit Archery. Hibiki immediately recognizes it as the skill that Amalia used. He gives it a try, and he shocks everyone when he creates an energy arrow and fires it into the sky. Hibiki says that this power is insane, and he appraises it. This reveals that it's a godly bow called the Glowing Bow, and it was specifically made for him. Lillian says that it's really cool, and Veen is speechless. Hibiki doesn't let it distract him though, because this just means that he can actually fight now. There's no time to waste, so he declares that they will go save Claude. Up in the heavens, the chief god thanks the god of magic for waking him up. The god of magic says it was nothing much, but she asks him if he's not giving Hibiki too many blessings. The chief god is quick to point out that she also lent Hibiki her strength. Most importantly, whether Hibiki can actually put all of these gifts to good use is entirely up to him. As they make their way to Claude, Hibiki checks his world map and sees that a pack of silver ruby wolves is heading right for them. There are 11 coming from the front, 10 to the right, and 8 to the left. Veen wonders what they're going to do, and Hibiki says that they only have one choice. If they stop them here, it will definitely help Claude. He tells everyone to defeat them quickly so they can move on. Veen figured that he would say that, so she tells him to focus on the one straight ahead. Hibiki agrees, so he pulls out his bow and arrow. He immediately doubts himself though, and wonders if this is too hard. Just then, Sabo sends him a message and recommends that he use his inherent skill Expert Eye. Hibiki realizes that this means that the chief god has recovered, and he activates the skill right away. Sabo begins calculating his hit chance and tells him to select his target. Hibiki's amazed by the targeting system, and he picks the wolf that's in front. Sabo announces that his hit chance is 100% and tells him to go ahead. Hibiki fires, and Veen congratulates him as he wipes out the wolf straight ahead. Hibiki thinks about how this is basically an arrow that travels at the speed of light and hits with 100% accuracy. He recognizes that it's essentially an inescapable weapon of mass slaughter, and he is glad because they need it right now. Veen then tells Lillian that she can release a third of her magic power, and Lillian gets right to work. She starts by using an attack called Wood Whip, and then she uses Wind Cutter. Hibiki is impressed because she took out a bunch of wolves, and he thinks about how Lillian doesn't hold back anymore. Veen congratulates her, and Lillian gives all the credit to her teacher. Hibiki says that he's surprised because the wolves attacked them in a formation, and he says that there are some smart monsters. Veen reveals that they're just being controlled, and all of this is a silver diamond wolf's doing. Hibiki wonders why a dangerous monster like that is out here. Veen suspects that it has something to do with the woman they met earlier. She says that if Ivel hadn't shown up, they wouldn't have gone deep into the forest, and they wouldn't have run into the silver diamond wolf. She also adds that she could have sworn that she's seen that face before somewhere. Meanwhile, we see that Ivel is watching Claude in battle. She tells Claude to suffer more because the more he suffers, the more a certain woman's heart and soul will become corrupted. Claude is still holding off the wolves alone, and he is struggling deeply. He wonders why Anastasia would do this to him, because he trusted her more than anything. Claude keeps having the memory of Anastasia looking at the moon, and she tells Claude how lovely it is. Claude calls out to her and asks if she is there, but it's just a wolf. The two fighters charge at each other, and the wolf does serious damage to Claude. Hibiki's arrow comes out of nowhere, but it gets blocked by the wolf. Veen reveals that it's the wolf's inherent skill called Adamantium Barrier, and with their current power, they can't break through it. The wolf gets ready to end Claude's life, and Hibiki tries to stop it. Unfortunately, his arrows can't break through the barrier, so he tries to yell for it to stop. Just then, a voice says something about summoning a follower, and a massive amount of power flows out of Hibiki. This power brings Claude to them, and they see how injured he is. Sabo immediately begins a diagnosis of Claude's condition, but the wolf is still attacking. They have no other option, so Veen tells Lillian to release all of her magical power. Lillian does just that, and she creates a barrier for them. Sabo completes the diagnosis, and Hibiki is horrified to see that Claude has the same deer poison in his body. He also has severe hemorrhaging caused by an abdominal injury and a partial loss of organs. Hibiki immediately uses Hypercure to remove the poison. He then notices something strange about the silver diamond wolf, and he appraises it. The appraisal reveals that the wolf is also afflicted with deer poison, and it's under obedience. The obedience is being caused by something called soul division by a person named Anastasia. Hibiki says that the name sounds familiar, and he remembers who Anastasia is. Jesta and Sabo confirms that the detoxification is complete, so Hibiki tries to use Perfect Heal. Unfortunately, it's blocked because the contract holder's MP is insufficient. Hibiki looks over at Lillian and realizes that she's been burning through her magic power in battle. He knows that before her MP is completely gone, he has to try something else. He tries Extra Heal, but that doesn't work either. Things get much worse as Lillian runs out of magic power and she collapses. The wolf moves in to end her lives, and we see that Ivel is very pleased. She says that if they hadn't come back, then maybe they wouldn't have had to die. Hibiki isn't ready to give up, so he charges his arrow. He screams as he releases attack, but it doesn't do anything. A fist comes out of nowhere to stop the wolf, and we see that it's Claude. Hibiki's Expert Eye switches to Enlightened mode on its own, and Sabo announces that it's correcting falsified information. Claude's stats update, and it reveals that his true job is Hero at level 95. This power awakens inside Claude, and he uses Diamond Break, which completely shatters the adamantium barrier. He deals some serious damage, and he tells everyone that he will handle the rest. He instructs them to wait, but Hibiki wonders what he will do without a weapon. Claude explains that it's right here, and he summons his spear. He has gained a ton of power, and he glows as he takes to the sky. Claude then uses a skill called Pointing Gravitation, and he sets his target as both the spear and Anastasia. He declares that his spear is now bound to her by the chains of gravity, and it's guaranteed to chase her down no matter what. He tells her that her adamantium barrier will tear like paper, and with his spear that can be neither evaded nor blocked, he will return her to the earth. He finishes with his ultimate skill called Critical Pierce, and he launches the spear. The damage it causes lights the entire sky, and Hibiki watches in amazement. He's horrified when the wolf's head lands in front of him, but he immediately appraises it. It says that the corrupted soul that had been possessed has finally been set free. Hibiki says that this makes it sound like Anastasia was also being controlled. The lingering presence of Anastasia speaks, and she thanks Claude. She says that thanks to him, she can no longer commit further sins. She apologizes to Claude and tells him that today, his nightmare ends as well. She says that she will sleep here until that time comes, and then she fades away. Claude asks Hibiki if he is unharmed, and Hibiki couldn't be happier to see him. He points out that Claude's hero powers have returned, but Claude says that it seems that it's time. Sabo announces that the time limit has been reached, and the Expert Eye's Enlightened mode is now deactivating. Hibiki realizes that Claude's hero powers have a time limit right now. Claude then apologizes because everything that happened was his fault. Hibiki can't understand why he's taking the blame, so Claude explains. He begins by revealing that he once had a companion named Anastasia. Eventually, he figured out that the silver diamond wolf was housing a piece of her soul. As a spirit mage, Anastasia could control monsters by splitting her soul and using a piece of it to possess them. For some unknown reason, she betrayed Claude and joined those who cursed him. Hibiki wonders if defeating her would lift the curse, but Claude says no because she's not the one who cursed him. He becomes very serious as he reveals that she's already dead because he killed her with his own hands. In her final moments, Anastasia declared that she will never let Claude have her soul before he ended her life. Claude realizes now that it was a terrible oversight on his part. He never could have imagined that there were still monsters under her control when she died. Hibiki now understands that the reason they were attacked by the silver diamond wolf is because it was coming after Claude. Claude says that he will accept any punishment, and he tells Hibiki to judge him however he sees fit. Hibiki's completely confused, and he wonders where the part is where Claude did anything wrong. Claude points out that if it wasn't for him, Hibiki never would have been in such danger. Hibiki tells Claude firmly that he was just forced into this, and he is a victim. He was betrayed, cursed, and even lost his limbs, and none of that is his fault. Hibiki tells him that he has no reason to feel guilty at all, and he will say it as many times as he has to. Hibiki says it over and over again, and Claude is deeply moved. Claude declares that he will serve and protect Hibiki with wholehearted devotion until he's able to return to his own world. Even if a time comes where they must part for good, he asks Hibiki to allow his oath and devotion to stay with him forever. Of course, Claude is shocked when Hibiki immediately says no, he will not accept this oath. Claude is stunned, but before Hibiki can explain himself, he collapses. The Chief God's voice says that using Enlightened mode was a bit much at Hibiki's current level, and he should rest for a while. Up in the heavens, the Chief God says that was close, and the God of Magic agrees. The Chief God tries to blame her for keeping him out of the action, but he quickly backs down when she threatens him again. The God of the Underworld is there as well, and we see that she's a little girl. The Chief God wonders why she is here, and she says that she heard that he had a terrible time because of the torture device she created. He just blames everything on the God of Magic, and he gets in trouble again. The God of the Underworld suggests the device might be better for hurting him, and the Chief God is horrified that no one is on his side. The God of Magic then asks the God of the Underworld if she's picked a new Demon Lord yet. They've been waiting, but she says that she hasn't. The God of Magic explains that the Beastman Kingdom's hero defeated the Demon Lord only a short time ago. To keep balance in the world, it's better to have the 8 Demon Lord positions filled. The God of the Underworld knows how serious this is, so she promises to find someone suitable. The Chief God says that she doesn't have to be so rigid about it, because the Demon Lords aren't necessarily evil. The God of the Underworld worries about what would happen if one of them went on a rampage again. The others assure her that it will be fine, because the new candidates are apparently good kids. After the girl leaves, the God of Magic tells the Chief God that she keeps feeling like she's seen Hibiki somewhere before. The Chief God is evasive and says who knows. He explains that he's only giving Hibiki a hand because he's just too weak. When he's alone, the Chief God thinks about how it looks like she's starting to put it all together. He says that power is necessary to allow Hibiki to survive. He quietly admits that he never wanted Hibiki to come to this kind of world. He could have just stayed in his own world and had a nice life. A while later, we see that Hibiki has been asleep for 2 whole days. Sabo announces that his overall level has increased from 12 to 25, and his job level has gone from 15 to 25. Hibiki greets Claude, and Veen tells him that he's been asleep for 2 whole days. Sabo explains that using Enlightened mode takes a heavy toll on the body, and she tells him to please adhere to the usage instructions when using it. Meanwhile, we see that Amalia is now at a royal celebration being thrown by the king. She greets His Majesty and thanks him for the invitation. Inside, she is furious because her idiot father's nowhere to be seen. What's even more upsetting is that this party seems to be what the so-called urgent message was all about. Just then, a young man approaches, and he has to remind her that his name is Verdelis. Amalia is shocked because when she last saw him, he was only 10 years old. He tells her that she's as beautiful as ever, and says that he wishes that someone like her could give birth to their country's next ruler. Amalia has no clue what he's talking about, and she says that that's gross. The king then makes a grand announcement to all his subjects. This year, both Verdelis and a young woman named Melanchoris have turned 15 and gained appropriate jobs. The king is overwhelmed with emotion as he declares that their country's desperate prayers have finally reached the gods. He announces that Crown Prince Verdelis has become a hero and Melanchoris has been chosen to become a sage. The entire room celebrates, and the king declares that it's the role of the hero to defeat the wicked demon lord. The king then announces that a hero must have a party, and he names the paladin Dogir as one member and Amalia from the house of Steinbart as another. Amalia has never been more shocked in her entire life, and she lets out a scream. Verdelis stands before everyone, and he vows to strike down the demon lord. He then declares that once he has made good on his vow, he intends to join in matrimony with Amalia. Things just keep getting worse for her, and she can't stop screaming. Verdelis calls on her to join forces with him and raise their country high. Everyone looks directly at her, but she has already left. Back at the inn, we see that our heroes have just finished a delicious meal. Hibiki tells everyone that he's been thinking about it, and he wants to go to Teradinus after all. He still makes it clear that he's going to find a way back to his own world. His family and friends are there, and there are a lot of people he misses. However, he also says that he doesn't want to say farewell to the people here either. The time he spends with them is very precious to him. He can't stand the thought of never seeing anyone from his own world ever again, but he also can't stand the thought of saying goodbye to all of them. That is why he intends to find a way to go back without leaving any of them behind. Lillian wonders if this means she can still stay with him, and Hibiki says that that is what he wants. Everyone is really happy to hear this new plan, but Claude sees a problem. He wonders how Hibiki plans to go back to his world without leaving them, and Hibiki admits that he has no idea. Veen says that he's being foolish, but Claude comes to his defense. He agrees that Hibiki's a fool, but he says that he might be able to make the impossible possible. Veen then reminds them that unless they get through the northern dungeon, they cannot reach Terra Dynus, where the sages are. Hibiki knows this, and that's why he's asking them all to help him. Claude pledges his body and his soul to protect Hibiki for the rest of his life as a knight, and Lillian says the same. Veen tries to act like she doesn't want to be part of this corny moment, but she can't help herself. She finally admits that she wants to stay with all of them too. Lillian couldn't be happier, and she goes to hug the cat. Hibiki thinks about how he doesn't know what will happen in the future, but he knows that he won't forget his ideals. He then declares to everyone that they're going to make it through the northern dungeon. Back at the Elf Kingdom, Amalia rushes to pack her things, and Stellia asks if she really needs to leave in such a hurry. Amalia says that she absolutely does, because she cannot tolerate that pompous prince on a visceral level. She also cannot believe that he actually thinks that the Demon Lord is just an enemy that needs to be defeated. Stellia wonders what is wrong with that, but Amalia says that everything is wrong with it. She knows that no one here will listen to her though, so she has to get out. She says goodbye to Stellia and says her idiot father can deal with the rest. She tells Hibiki to wait for her because she is coming. Elsewhere, Ivola apologizes to someone in her mirror. She says that someone got in the way and she didn't complete her mission. She says that next time, she will end Claude's life and present a certain woman's soul to them. Later, Lillian brings up the people in Hibiki's old world. He said that he wanted to go back to see them, so she would like to know what they are like. Claude is also interested, so Hibiki explains that they are family and friends. He always has a good time with them, especially when they're drinking black tea. He explains that his childhood friend's family ran a cafe. Claude can't help but notice that Hibiki is remembering them fondly, so he says that they must also be quite worried about him. He admits that they probably are, but he says that right now, he is here with Claude, Lillian, and Veen, so he's not lonely. A while later, Balls is shocked because Claude told him everything that happened. Hibiki had a life and death battle with the Silver Diamond Wolf, and they came out victorious. He tells Hibiki that he did a good job, but this guy is super intense. He declares that if Hibiki had more muscle, he might have defeated the wolf without collapsing. Balls is furious with himself for not training Hibiki enough, and he says that it's not too late. He tells Hibiki to come with him now and embark on a muscle training routine from hell. Luckily, Jewel stops him and tells Hibiki the real reason they called him. Hibiki thought it was for muscle training, but Jewel explains that it's to discuss the reward for defeating the Silver Diamond Wolf. She shows him how much the reward will be, and he can't believe it's this much. Jewel explains that had the wolf come to town, there's no telling how many would have fallen victim. Hibiki defeated an opponent that even Balls would have struggled with, so the reward is well deserved. Balls tells him not to be coy and just accept it. Hibiki accepts and immediately says that with this, they can make preparations to take on the dungeon. Hibiki then takes his group to the Debbie Company where that weird guy is. As always, the guy named Ajar immediately picks up on the scent of financial fortune the moment Hibiki walks through the door. He welcomes Hibiki warmly and says that the scent of wealth surrounding him is particularly rich today. The aroma of money is overwhelming, and his nasal cavity is practically melting. He then welcomes Claude and Lillian, and Hibiki remembers that they have a past here. Ajar reassures him immediately and says that the company will not meddle in their personal affairs. Ajar then shows him the Debbie Company's weapon showroom and tells him to feel free to look around. Hibiki immediately picks out a wind layer tunic because its wind magic will help him dodge attacks. Ajar wonders what weapons he would like to buy, but Hibiki says that he's fine with what he has now. Deep down, he thinks about the godly bow that the god gave him and figures that there's probably nothing better than that. Lillian picks out a blossom wand, and everyone agrees that it really suits her. Ajar says that the stuff will cost 1,200 gold coins, and Hibiki nearly passes out. Claude seems furious about the price at first, but then says that it's very reasonable. Hibiki can't believe it, and Claude explains that they won't find it cheaper anywhere else. Claude picks something next, and Hibiki tells him that he should also get something that protects his stomach. Hibiki reminds him that in the last battle, he was really close to losing his life. Ajar assures Hibiki that the piece Claude selected is one of the best. It's imbued with a strengthening spell, so its defensive power rivals a full suit of armor. Hibiki appraises it and confirms that everything he's saying is true. He then asks Claude about his weapon, and Claude selects a spear called the Magnetica. He explains that it's versatile and effective, even in cramped dungeons. Hibiki appraises it too, and he's really impressed. With its powerful magnetic field, you can direct a rain of blades at your target, or even change the direction of your opponent's sword. Ajara is amazed by how much detail Hibiki can get from an appraisal, and he asks how high his appraisal skill level is. Hibiki tells him that it's at level 5, and Ajara nearly loses his mind. He explains that usually an appraiser's skill level is only 1 or 2. Even his company's skilled in-house veteran appraiser is only at level 3. Encountering someone with a level 5 skill is very rare, so he says that the ascent of his financial fortune is getting even more intense. Hibiki is surprised to hear this, and he immediately scolds the chief god for not telling him this earlier. The chief god apologizes and also mentions that Hibiki can now use that thing he wanted. Hibiki just now remembers that his relief measure leveled up in the last fight. Ajara is eager to make more money, so he asks if Hibiki will also need a carriage or other equipment for his upcoming journey. He says that given a little time, there's nothing that they can't get for him. Hibiki takes him up on the offer and asks him to let him know when everything's ready. Shortly after, Lillian wishes the guys good luck as Hibiki activates relief measure on Claude. Sabo detects the immovable chains and asks Hibiki if he would like to use relief measure on the target. Hibiki confirms it, so Sabo begins summoning a sacred beast called Carbuncle. Hibiki wonders what that means, and then a small adorable creature appears. It introduces itself as Carbuncle and declares that it's the sacred beast serving the mighty chief god. Hibiki and Lillian immediately want to cuddle it, so Carbuncle insists on being treated with more respect. They continue to pet him though, and he can't help but enjoy the attention. Claude becomes furious from jealousy, just like when they first met Veen. He can't stand seeing another animal getting all the attention, so he becomes enraged. Hibiki watches in shock as Claude himself begins to break one of the chains holding him down. He's amazed, and he wonders if this is the power of relief measure level 2. This is really all just Claude, so Veen arrives and demands to know how long Carbuncle is going to be fooling around. Carbuncle's surprised to see Veen here, but he has more things to worry about. Claude stares at him, and Carbuncle wonders what the wolf's problem is. Veen has to yell at Carbuncle and tell him to just do his job already. Veen calls him an idiot, so he gets serious. He formally introduces himself once more as a sacred beast in charge of the light that controls happiness. He uses a skill called Good Luck Catcher, and a pair of arms come out of nowhere. It's incredibly difficult to break these chains, so everyone cheers Carbuncle on. Carbuncle struggles a great deal, and he has to use all of his power. Eventually he manages to do it, and Hibiki says that 2 more of Claude's cursed chains have been broken. Everyone is overjoyed, and Claude thanks Hibiki deeply. Hibiki doesn't take the credit, as he points out that Carbuncle was the one who lifted the curse. Claude gives Carbuncle his deepest thanks, but he's clearly furious. Carbuncle can only wonder what's going on because this wolf obviously hates him. Veen is in tears because Claude has grown so much that he just glared this time instead of attacking. Despite being a complete dummy, he's still learning. Claude thanks her for the kind words, and Carbuncle can't believe how crazy everyone is. Hibiki says that it looks like they made a new friend, but Carbuncle says no thanks and declares that his job is done. He announces that he's going home, and he disappears. Hibiki wonders what his problem was, and they say that he was really weird. Later, it turns out to be an incredibly hot day. Lillian asks Claude if he's okay, because it looks like he's struggling, and he simply says that it's so hot. Hibiki agrees, and asks Sabo what the temperature is. Using the units of his former world, Sabo says that it's 39 degrees. Hibiki looks at Claude, and suggests that maybe he should cut off all that hair. Claude is horrified to hear this, but he says that if it's Hibiki's command, then he will go bald. Hibiki pulls out a pair of scissors and says that even the strongest heroes have their weak spots. Lillian shows that she's kinda crazy as she tells Claude to sit still. Veen gives her an idea, so Lillian uses Create Water to make some water orbs. Veen tells her to add another spell to the orbs, so Lillian casts State Maintenance on them. The orbs become like water balloons that float around them and draw the heat away from their bodies. Claude is amazed because it's drawing the heat out, and he feels much better. Lillian agrees that it feels really nice, and Hibiki wonders where this magic has been his entire life. Just then, Tanya falls into the room as she's absolutely dying from the heat. She begs Hibiki for one of those water balloons, but he uses Bubble Wash on her instead. It's a powerful spell, and she says that she feels very refreshed. A little later, Hibiki decides to head out and try to find something to beat the heat. Lillian and Claude both want to come, but Claude is still in bad shape. Hibiki tells Claude to rest and asks Lillian to keep the water balloons going. Veen declares that she will go with Hibiki instead and demands that he buy her a nice cold drink. Out in the town, it's so hot that barely anyone is around. Hibiki runs into a jar who's completely cool and comfortable. He is not sweating at all, and Hibiki's jealous of him. Ajar explains that his suit is equipped with a certain something that is one of the Debbie Company's finest products. Hibiki wants to know what it is, so they go to the guild to discuss it with Jewel. The item is called the Cloak of Everlasting Spring, and it is clothing with adjustable temperature control. Unfortunately, Ajar told Hibiki that the Debbie Company doesn't have any in stock right now. To make a new one, they need a magic flower called a ruhe, but Hibiki doesn't know where they grow. Jewel reveals that they grow deep in the forest to the east. However, the roads in the forest are rather complicated, so she doubts that he will be able to find one. Hibiki says that he really needs to get some, so Jewel offers to show him the way herself. As they walk through the forest, Hibiki notices that Veen has fallen asleep again. He can't believe it, and he wonders why she even came with him. Jewel says that Hibiki is making quite the trek for Claude and Lillian, and she says that it's very kind of him. Hibiki declares that it's not a big deal, and it's just his way of trying to repay them a little. Jewel wonders what he means, and Hibiki explains. No matter the situation, they always use all their power for his sake, and they always prioritize him over themselves. No matter what happens, they are always by his side. Jewel tells him that his ability to make such wonderful friends is just a testament to his own goodness. She also points out that thanks to Hibiki, the long journey is already over as they have arrived. Hibiki couldn't be happier because there are tons of those flowers here. Hibiki returns to the inn, and his friends say that they're feeling totally fine now. Hibiki is glad, but he says that he's really hungry and it's still too early for dinner. Lillian says that she has something for him, and it turns out to be a nice little meal. Claude explains that they wanted to do something for Hibiki, so he and Lillian found some black tea. Hibiki is touched because they remembered that he drank black tea with his friends. As everyone enjoys the tea together, Hibiki realizes that he hasn't checked Lillian's status in a while. He appraises her and is completely stunned. He gets really loud as he says that Lillian has become a sage. It still says level 1, but the appraisal now reads sage instead of candidate. Veen says that it makes sense because Lillian has gotten all kinds of experience and leveled up. Hibiki celebrates, but Lillian says that she doesn't feel any different. Claude tells her that the realization will start to settle in soon, and he congratulates her as well. Veen then wonders if her magic skills have also leveled up, and Hibiki confirms that they have. He also mentions that his grimoire has advanced to level 2 as well. Veen is surprised and immediately demands that he activate it so it can update her magical knowledge. Hibiki activates the grimoire, and Veen begins to overflow with power. Immense powers flowing through her, and she declares that so much new magical knowledge has been added. She declares that with this, she might even be able to have Hibiki learn some magic skills. Hibiki is delighted, and he kneels before Veen, calling her master and humbly requesting her guidance. A little later, the day of departure finally arrives. Hibiki says that it's finally time to head for the northern dungeon, and Claude agrees. Tanya tells him that they will be missed and asks them to stay with her again when they return. Hibiki promises that they will, and he thanks everyone. He then tells Claude and Lillian that he has something for them. He gives them each a cloak of everlasting spring. This is the whole reason he went on that trek in the forest, and he explains how they work. The cloaks are imbued with the skill of temperature control, so putting one on when you are hot will give you instant comfort. Claude is deeply moved when he realizes that Hibiki's trip into the forest was for this. The Wolfman gets really emotional, and he says that he will treasure the cloak for the rest of his life. Lillian puts hers on, and she says that it's super soft. Balls then calls out to Claude, and their feud continues. He tells Claude one last time to make sure that Hibiki's getting his gains. Claude promises that he will protect Hibiki, but he will not force gains upon him. This sets Balls off, and he tells Claude to come at him. Hibiki sighs because these two are going at it right up until the bitter end. Jewel then gives the group some final words of warning. She says that the dungeon is far more dangerous than the eastern forest, and she asks them to make sure to be careful. Hibiki assures her that they will, and they board the carriage. It's finally time for them to leave, so everyone says goodbye. Hibiki announces that they're heading to the northern dungeon, and then on to the underground city called Terradinus. Just then we see that Ivel is watching them leave from a distance. She notes that they're heading for the northern dungeon, and she quietly says that maybe they can do everyone a favor and die there. For some reason, she says that it would be for the balance of the world. Elsewhere, a bunch of zombies are attacking a town. Surprisingly, we see that Hibiki's friends are heroes, and they save the town. One of them is Taiki, and the other is a girl named Kyoko. The townspeople are amazed because these heroes are known as the Corpse Killers. Taiki says that he doesn't really love the name though, because it feels a bit edgelord. A third friend named Amine arrives, and she's glad to see that everyone's okay. Their teacher is with them as well, and he remarks that that was the last of the undead. The group is really bothered because undead keep appearing everywhere they go. Kyoko wonders if this is really the right way, and Taiki says that it is. They just have to follow the main road because that's what the spirit told them. It turns out that they know Hibiki's in this world, and they assume that he's up ahead. Their teacher says Hibiki's name quietly and declares that they will find him. They're all worried about Hibiki, and they hope that he is safe. One night on their journey, Claude is shivering because the cloak of everlasting spring is making him too cold. He lets out a sneeze all over Veen and decides that it would be best to just take the cloak off. A little later, Hibiki hunts a monster, and everyone celebrates his success. Hibiki wonders if he's getting stronger, but Sabo says that he's mistaken. She explains that he's experiencing a temporary emotional uplift due to having just set out on his adventure. She calls it an adventure high and says that it's simply an illusion. Their journey continues, and Claude lectures Hibiki about the importance of daily training. He warns that learning skills alone won't be enough because Hibiki will find himself in situations where he can't use them. Unfortunately, Hibiki is barely listening because the cart is shaking so much that it's making him sick. After puking, Hibiki goes to wash himself up. He's shocked when the water in the pond turns out to be thousands of slime. Claude tells him that this is a good opportunity to practice taking down amorphous enemies. Veen suggests that they make it interesting by saying no weapons are allowed. Claude agrees, but Lillian worries that Hibiki won't be able to handle the slimes. Claude declares that Hibiki won't be unarmed, but he just gives him a fire and a stick. Hibiki gives it his best shot, and he's delighted to see that the slime are afraid of fire. Unfortunately, one of the slimes attacks him, and Hibiki wonders if this is where his life ends. Things take a very dark turn, as Hibiki says that he doesn't want to die in a place like this. He thinks about Amalia and the promise they made to meet again. He then thinks about Claude, Lillian, and Veen, and how he can't stand the thought of never seeing them again. Hibiki composes himself as he says that there's no way that he can just die here. His body gets really hot for some reason, and a fire scares the slime away. Sabo explains that Hibiki just acquired fire. Hibiki thinks that the slime are running away, but it turns out that they're just combining. Lillian acts like she's about to say something helpful, but she just says that the slime is really big. Our hero gets very serious as he activates his fire ability, but it doesn't do much. The slime knocks him away, and Claude just sends him back into battle. After Hibiki's defeated by the slime, Lillian says that he did great. His fire was tiny, but it was still fire. They camp here for the night, and they make a delicious meal. The girls can't wait to eat, and they dance around the fire. As they sleep, Hibiki admits that while he's glad that he got the hang of fire, it's pretty pathetic. It doesn't do any damage, and he wonders if it will ever actually do anything useful. Claude then tells him something very important. He explains that Terra Dinis is a place that can only be reached by those who have conquered the northern dungeon. However, nobody has ever managed to do so. Hibiki is alarmed after hearing this, but Claude tells him not to worry. He swears that he will bring Hibiki to Terra Dinis. The reason he's having Hibiki train every day is because they're going into uncharted territory. That way, he can be prepared for anything. Hibiki takes his words to heart and says that he has to get much stronger. They both agree to do their best, and Claude says that tomorrow will be another early day. Just then, Sabo announces that Hibiki has new skills available. His 4 new skills are Safety Zone, Emergency Evacuation, Rent Technical Skill, and Copy Transcribe. Hibiki will have to check them out later because now it's time for sleep. The next morning, our heroes find a group of concerned people. They explain that they had to evacuate nearby because a huge number of undead appeared in their village. It wasn't just 1 or 2 of them because they were everywhere. They sent word to the guild, but reinforcements have not come yet. A little girl also mentions that some traveler said that she was going to take care of all the undead by herself. The villagers describe her as a beastman woman who looked very capable. Claude says that anyone who would take on that many undead single-handedly must be quite experienced. He suggests that they take a detour, which would take more time, but it would be safer. Lillian, however, says that she wants to help Hibiki get back to his friends as quickly as possible. Going straight through the village would be the fastest route. Claude thinks about it and agrees that Lillian has a point. He tells Hibiki that they're going to have to conquer the northern dungeon eventually, and to prepare for the various enemies they will encounter, they should try to gather as much experience as possible. Hibiki's afraid to hear what Claude is planning, and Claude just tells him to do his best. They head into the village, and Hibiki confirms on his world map that the undead are indeed there. Claude tells him that there's nothing to fear because the undead move slowly. As they move through the village, they find holes everywhere. Claude warns that if they leave the path, there could be all manners of traps. Hibiki is horrified when he sees that a monster is still alive in one of the traps. Lillian points out that it's not alive anymore, but it's still moving. Hibiki nervously moves forward, but he ends up setting off trap after trap. He sets off 3 of them, and Claude wonders if Hibiki even listens. Just then some undead appear, but a giant rock takes them out. It's Fauna, and she says hello to Hibiki. She explains that she was just wandering around when she arrived at this village, and she found it in the middle of a big commotion about undead. She set a bunch of traps around the cemetery, but then Hibiki waltzed right into them. She tells our hero that since he's here, he better help her defeat the undead. Claude thinks that it shouldn't be too hard, because even a large number of undead are just an unorganized mob. Fauna reveals that the undead around here are not normal. They have some intelligence, and they seem to be organized. Claude is troubled to hear this, but Hibiki says that they will be fine. He confidently marches forward, but he falls into another trap. After being rescued again, Sabo announces that he's acquired another title called Master of Walking into Traps. Fauna can't believe that he doesn't have the trap detection skill yet, but Hibiki doesn't even know what that is. This makes her wonder what kind of appraiser he even is. She tells him to appraise the ground, and it reveals that it's a simple pitfall trap covered by dirt. Fauna explains that if he keeps appraising traps like that, he will eventually acquire the trap detection skill. The most important rule is to go with your gut and appraise everything. After Fauna prays in a church, Hibiki notices a flashing jewel. Claude explains that if you pray to the compass of the gods, a jewel will flash back. The compass holds a divine jewel from each of the 11 gods. Hibiki points out that one of the jewels is missing, but Claude has never noticed it before. There are no undead in this church, so they move on. Just then, the church bell rings so loud that they have to rush outside. Tons of undead come out of the ground, so Claude springs into action. He slices them in half, but they keep coming. Lillian steps up to use Fireball, but that doesn't stop them either. Veen can tell that there's something weird about these undead, so they rush back inside the church. No one knows why the undead can't be defeated, but it's clear now that they come out when the church bell rings. The bell rings again, and even more undead appear. They are surrounded, so Claude tells Hibiki and Lillian to go look at the bell tower. They find that no one's around the bell, so they wonder who made it ring. Back downstairs, Claude bursts through the door and charges into the army of undead. Fauna follows him with an attack of her own, and they compliment each other for their fighting prowess. Lillian gets really worried as she sees that the 2 of them are surrounded. Hibiki backs them up with some attacks, but Claude says that they won't stop coming. The bell rings again, and Lillian says that there's something wrong with it. It's making sounds, even though it's not moving. No one else is here to ring it, so Hibiki wonders what on earth is going on. From a distance, Iva watches and says that she's seen those arrows before. She declares that she would like to see what else Hibiki has up his sleeve. The bell continues to ring, so Hibiki appraises it. It turns out to be an ordinary bell, but that doesn't make any sense. Just then, Sabo recommends that they check the surrounding area. He uses appraise everywhere, and he notices something hidden in the floor. He uses Expert Eye to reveal a strange mirror. Iva is shocked because Hibiki was able to discover her mirror so quickly. This shouldn't be possible, so she wonders if there's something special about his appraisal skill. Hibiki discovers that the mirror is imbued with magic, but the bell rings again and hurts everyone's ears. He determines that all the sound is actually coming from the bell inside the mirror. Back outside, our heroes continue the fight. Fauna determines that this is hopeless because the undead just keep coming. They keep attacking endlessly, but Claude says that it just means that they have to endlessly fight. Fauna tells him that there's something wrong with his brain, and they keep fighting. Lillian is worried about them, so Hibiki tries to destroy the mirror. It just fires his arrow back at him, and it nearly hits Ival. Hibiki and Lillian get really frustrated, so they both prepare to attack at the same time. Hibiki gets ready with 3 arrows at once, and Lillian with a bunch of fireballs. Veen warns that it's all going to bounce back, but they don't listen. Their attacks get sent in every direction, and they cause damage everywhere. Ivo can't believe how bad their aim is, as even she must dodge the reflected attacks. Surprisingly, one of the attacks hits her mirror, and it also destroys the one in the tower. All the zombies collapse to the ground, and Hibiki emerges from the church. The injured Lillian turns out to be okay, and Hibiki says that he doesn't understand what just happened. The villagers thank our heroes, but Fauna gives all the credit to Hibiki. Hibiki can only apologize for destroying their church, but the villagers say that they will fix it in no time. Claude wonders who was behind all this, but Fauna says that the rest is under the jurisdiction of the guild. It's time to continue their journey, so Hibiki explains to Fauna that they're going to the northern dungeon. Fauna says goodbye, and she hopes to see Hibiki in girls' clothes again one day. That night, Ivel is exhausted from watching everything unfold. She takes a moment to think about everything she witnessed. There was the mysterious appraisal and the arrows of light, which she notes is crude magic. She's worried about what this might mean because it will get in her way. She determines that Hibiki is another obstacle to her ending Claude's life. She concludes that it will be worth preparing properly this time, and she declares that she's got this. A while later, the chief god says that the past cannot be erased no matter what, and neither can the mistakes that have been made. He declares that that's exactly why he will not let Hibiki die. He really wants Hibiki to survive and find happiness. That way, when a certain girl finally awakens from her sleep, the world won't have to be destroyed. Back with our heroes, we see that they have arrived at the entrance to the northern dungeon. A guard wonders what Claude is thinking by dragging these kids around with him. He fears that Claude is using them as bait for monsters in the dungeon. Claude is furious when he thinks this guard is mocking him, and Hibiki has to calm him down. Lillian jumps in to defend Hibiki and tells the guard that he's just a small person. Hibiki is insulted, so he just presents his papers from the guild. This is enough for the guard, so he declares that they may pass. Meanwhile, Amalia is on her way back, and she can't wait to see Hibiki. He said that he was going to become an adventurer, so she wonders if he's in a party. Her mind gets carried away as she imagines Hibiki thinking about her too. In her mind, he hopes to see her soon, and he says that she's so pretty, kind, and dependable. Just then, the amulet that Ivel gave her begins to glow, and it's pointing her in the direction of a town. Amalia wonders if Ivel is there, so she runs towards it. Back with the others, Claude reveals that there is something they must do before setting out. They need to write an itinerary of how they plan to best the dungeon. Hibiki has never heard about this before, so he wonders what it means. Claude explains that adventurers below C rank need to register their anticipated time in the dungeon and obtain permission. This is the guild's way of stopping reckless adventurers and minimizing casualties. Hibiki wonders how they're supposed to make an itinerary when they don't even know what's going to happen. Claude points out that they have a rough idea, and Lillian says that she would like to try making the itinerary. Claude allows it, and he explains everything they need to know. The deeper they go into the dungeon, the higher the enemies' levels become. The northern dungeon has 30 floors, and every 10 floors, there is a boss fight. He has heard that the boss on the 10th floor is a silver emerald wolf. If they work backwards from that, they can build an itinerary for the first 10 floors. He tells Lillian that if she runs into something she doesn't know, she can ask him at any time. Lillian declares that she will do her best, and she tells the guys that they can get some rest. Before bed, Hibiki points out that Lillian has really grown up. Claude can tell that she must want to help Hibiki as much as she can, and Hibiki says that she already has. They then go over what they are taking with them. They have weapons and armor from Rowell, and Hibiki can make potions using his skill. Just then, Hibiki panics as he remembers that he forgot something important. Claude gets really worried, but Hibiki just says that it's underpants. Once they're in the dungeon, they won't be able to do laundry, and if they can't change their underwear, then it's going to feel really gross. Claude reminds him that he can just use bubble wash instead of changing them. Hibiki points out that it's not about the results, it's about how it feels. He wants to change into freshly washed underwear, and that's a non-negotiable need for him as a modern kid. Claude suggests buying some more, but Hibiki says that they don't sell them anywhere in this world. He doesn't understand why they don't sell his kind, so he asks Sabo to explain. Sabo says that she has no knowledge of what wearing them feels like and can't answer any of those questions. Just then, Veen reminds him that there's a special skill he can use. Hibiki remembers that he has the copy and paste skill, so he uses it to duplicate his underwear. A mountain of them falls on Veen, and she wishes that she would have washed them before he made all these copies. Back with Amalia, she reminds herself that now is not the time to be afraid of ghosts. The amulet is glowing, which means that Ivel is in trouble. She puts her fear aside and continues her search in this abandoned town. Nearby we see that Ivel is talking to a terrifying wolf. It's clearly very capable, so she tells it to get closer. Just then, Amalia tells her to get to safety because she's here to rescue her. Ivel plays along, and she pleads for Amalia to save her. Amalia begins to fight the wolf, and she even has to resort to using her defensive wall. The wolf eventually gets the upper hand, and Ivel says that she knew that it would come in handy. This is all she needed to see, so she tells the wolf to stop fighting. Ivel reveals that the wolf is her pal, and Amalia demands to know what Ivel's trying to accomplish by controlling monsters. Ivel declares that she wants world peace, and she insists that she is serious. Amalia finds it hard to believe, but she doesn't like distrusting her friends. Ivel has a good laugh, as she can't believe that Amalia still thinks that they are friends. She says that Amalia is too old to be falling for nonsense, and Amalia points out that she's 56 years old. She gets really angry, as she says that after 56 long years, she thought that she had finally made her first female friend. She is showing Ivel the amulet, but Ivel doesn't even remember what that is. Amalia reminds her that it's a token of their friendship, and Ivel realizes that that's how Amalia found her. Ivel crushes her amulet, and the wolf continues its attack. Amalia manages to capture it, and she says that she won't forgive Ivel. She uses Windcutter to attack her, but Ivel just reflects it with her mirror. Amalia gets taken out by her own attack, and Ivel says that she is annoying. She also calls her soft, and she simply disappears. Back at the guild, the group submits Lillian's itinerary to a guild worker named Franca. She is a D-ranked adventurer who is handling the dungeon registrations. Franca looks through the itinerary carefully and is very impressed. She says that the timing of their planned rest periods is well thought out, and she calls it a really great plan. It all looks good, so she grants them permission to enter the dungeon. She takes them to the entrance, and Franca prays for their safe return. Hibiki thinks to himself that they are finally here. He reminds himself that they have to beat the dungeon to get to the underground city of Terradinus. Everyone is ready, so they head inside the dungeon. Inside, Hibiki looks at his world map and points out that there are no enemies around the entrance. Claude says that for now, they should try forging ahead without using the world map. If Hibiki relies on it too much, he will never develop a sense for danger, and that's also part of his training. Just then, Sabo says that the conductivity rating of Divine Authority has dropped by 15%. Claude immediately catches Hibiki spacing out and tells him that he can't afford to do that the moment they stepped into the dungeon. He warns that a momentary lapse of attention can cost him his life. Up in the heavens, the chief god wonders what will happen now. The god of magic appears, and he wonders if she is here for romance. She makes it very clear that she isn't, and she wonders what's going on. The chief god explains that Hibiki just went into the dungeon. She wonders why he would go there, because even with their skills helping him, it's still too dangerous given his current stats. The chief god explains that Hibiki wants to beat the dungeon, get to the sages in the underground city, and ask them how to return to his own world. The god of magic is stunned and demands to know why the chief god didn't stop him. She points out that a way to return to his own world doesn't even exist. The chief god says that he has no intention of letting Hibiki die, but he also doesn't want to control him. The god of magic is troubled by how concerned she keeps finding herself about this kid, and she wonders why. As for the chief god, he quietly thinks to himself about what the god of magic just said. She thinks that a way back doesn't exist, but that's only true in her current memory. He says that ever since Hibiki entered the dungeon, it's been hard to get him to hear him. Their connection is shaky, but the chief god can still sense where Hibiki is. Their connection is not totally lost, so he is sure that it will work out fine. The god of magic then reveals the real reason she came. She's inviting the chief god to enjoy some tea at the god of medicine's place. The chief god is eager to go, and he says that he's ready to be healed. The god of magic can sense his impure intentions, so she punches him in the face. Back in the dungeon, Hibiki warns everyone to watch out. There is something on the floor that he is sure is a slime. Saba reveals that it's just an ordinary puddle of water, and there's more above him. It falls in front of him, and Veen wonders why he's such a scaredy cat. She tells him to show it the fruits of his training, so Hibiki declares that he will use the first magic attack he acquired. He unleashes his ultimate fire attack, but it's not very impressive. Claude ignores him and points out that they're at a dead end. The wall in front of them is kinda strange, so Hibiki appraises it. The appraisal reveals that it's a monster called a locked rock. It's a rock monster found only in dungeons, and it likes to disguise itself as a wall to block the path. Claude says that he wasn't expecting this on the first floor, and he notes that his spear is not much use against it. He can pierce it, but he can't destroy it. What they need is something that causes a lot of damage to a wide area, rather than a single point. Hibiki wonders if Lillian's weapon would work for this, and Veen says that it would. Lillian shocks everyone with a crazy attack, and the guys can't believe how powerful she is. Claude says that the peak of Lillian's attack power is even higher than his right now. The path is now clear, so they keep moving forward. As they move on, Hibiki wonders who even made a dungeon like this. Veen says that not even she knows who made it or for what purpose. However, she points out that since it's full of traps and monsters, you can be sure that some really mean person made it. Sabo then sends another update saying that the conductivity rating of Divine Authority has dropped by 17% and may decrease by a total of 25%. Before Hibiki can even ask what that means, a bunch of monsters appear. Hibiki appraises them and says that their levels are 12, 18, and 15. Claude declares that he will take the two on the right, and he asks Hibiki to take care of the left. Hibiki activates Expert Eye with his bow, but Sabo says that his hit chance is only 65%. Hibiki is shocked as he misses, because before, he was guaranteed 100%. Sabo confirms that this is the limit of aim assistance inside the dungeon. Luckily, Claude is an absolute beast, and he takes out all the monsters. They are safe now, but Hibiki can't help but wonder what's wrong with him. Sabo explains that the dungeon makes it difficult for the Chief God's power to reach him, so the power of his Expert Eye and tutorial has degraded. Hibiki is alarmed, but he notices that Claude has been talking this entire time, and he hasn't heard a word of what he said. Claude figures it out and he gets really upset because he was explaining the dangers of traps. Hibiki says that he's sorry, and Claude points out that normally, Hibiki at least listens, even if he hears one thing and misinterprets it in 10 different ways. He wonders what's wrong, and he is shocked when Hibiki explains that his skills are weaker in the dungeon. Even Veen admits that she didn't know about this, which surprises Lillian. Veen says that she did know that dungeons were outside the jurisdiction of the gods, but didn't connect the dots. Claude realizes that this is why Hibiki's arrow missed when he had been showing such great accuracy lately. Hibiki apologizes and said that with his bow being weakened, he feels like he's just going to be a burden to everyone. Lillian immediately steps in and tells him not to worry. Even if his arrow misses, she promises that she will be here to defeat the enemies with her magic. Claude backs her up and points out that even missed arrows do more than enough by keeping enemies in check. This alone makes combat easier for him on the front line and for Lillian in the back line. He reminds Hibiki that he's not fighting alone because he has all his friends with him. Hibiki agrees and says that they're in this together. Claude goes even further by saying that even though they're not connected by blood, he truly thinks of Hibiki as family. Claude is glad that Hibiki revealed his situation to them early on, and he says that they will face problems as they come and deal with them together. Hibiki thanks everyone, and then he tries to get up, but Claude firmly tells him that he didn't say that he could stand up yet. He declares that there are so many things that he still wants to say about training. He points out that Hibiki's rare skills are useful, but he won't survive if he can't manage situations where he can't use them. Hibiki is then stunned when Claude says that they're going to do some training right now. He vows to raise Hibiki's accuracy with the bow without relying on his skills. Back with Amalia, she regains consciousness, and she remembers how Ivel betrayed her. She marches forward and declares that she has to stop Ivel. A while later, we see that our heroes are on day 3 of their dungeon dive, and they're currently on floor 6. They're in battle with the ferocious beast, and Hibiki gets destroyed. Before the monster can end his life, Lillian unleashes a spell called Air Shredder and completely wrecks the enemy. Hibiki can't help but notice that Lillian's magic is getting more and more powerful. Hibiki congratulates her, but he wishes that she would defeat the enemy in a way that will let them collect some materials. Hibiki just used this skill during the fight, so Claude wonders how it went. He says that it felt great, and he thinks about how he's using a special skill. It's called skill rental, and it allows him to borrow someone else's skill for himself. There are some limitations, but Hibiki can't complain because renting other people's skills is like a cheat code. He is using one of Claude's skills, and he thinks that it can help cover the loss of his bow's accuracy. As they move forward, Hibiki detects a trap nearby. He sets it off, and Claude explains that it's a teleportation trap. If you step on it, you will be transported to some faraway place. When they take a break, Claude points out that they're moving at a very good pace. Ever since Hibiki gained the trap detection skill, their progress is very much on track. Hibiki says that it wasn't easy because he kept getting caught in every trap before he acquired the skill. Just then Veen says that she's really hungry, even though they just ate. She wants what they had for lunch, so Hibiki uses his copy and paste skill to make the exact same sandwich. As she eats, Hibiki thinks about how this skill is insanely broken. If he wanted to, he could copy as many gold coins as he wants. Hibiki gets carried away with his imagination, so Sabo has to remind him that counterfeiting currency is a crime. Hibiki changes the subject by asking about the boss on the 10th floor. Veen confirms that it's the Silver Emerald Wolf and says that it's the same monster that she defeated the other day. Hibiki says that they have trained a lot since then, and he thinks that they can do it. That night, as Hibiki lies awake, he thinks about how he needs to get stronger. He says that it would be nice if he could just copy the skills that he's borrowing from Claude using copy and paste. To his surprise, Sabo activates copy and paste automatically. She announces that Hibiki has acquired the technical skills called core control and detect presence. Hibiki wakes Claude up when he screams from shock, and Claude wonders what happened. He explains that he was able to acquire skills simply by replicating them. Claude is stunned, and Sabo sends another message. She explains that the copy and paste skill can replicate just about anything that is not a living being. Hibiki is sure that there has to be some sort of limit because this is basically cheating. Sabo points out that the action is pretty similar to cheating, but technically it falls just short of it. This is because he must achieve some level of competence in a borrowed skill before he can replicate it. Claude immediately gets very excited and says that Hibiki should learn Fleet Steps and Fluid Steps next. Hibiki calms him down by explaining that he can't copy a skill unless he's used it to a certain degree. This only gets Claude even more excited because it simply means that training has value. Lillian won't even let it happen in her sleep as she freezes the overly excited wolf. On day 5, we see that our heroes have reached floor 10. Hibiki sliding around after mastering Fleet Step and Fluid Step like Claude wanted. Claude couldn't be more proud, but Veen says that walking would be faster. Just then they arrive at a door and Claude says that there's a boss behind it. They've been waiting for this moment, but before they can enter, a group of injured adventurers come out. Their wounds are really bad, so Hibiki begins treatment. Just then the fearsome boss monster starts coming out of the room. Claude rushes to stop it, and Lillian backs him up with the fire spell. They manage to push it back and close the door, so Hibiki begins healing. After he heals the adventurers, they explain that the Silver Emerald Wolf did this to them. There were 3 of them, and one of the 3 was incredibly strong. The guy named Gasper warns our heroes to be very careful. Inside the room, we see that Ivel is waiting. She's glad that our heroes are finally here, and she does something to the wolf. She tells it that its target is Claude's life support that's in the shape of a young boy. She's talking about Hibiki, and she leaves the rest to the wolf. Up in the heavens, the chief god is at the god of medicine's place for the tea he was invited to. The medicine god wonders how Hibiki's doing, so the chief god says that he's doing fine. He says that in life, there are peaks and valleys, and Hibiki isn't letting things get him down. He says that he needs some healing, but the god of magic can tell that he has bad intentions. Back with our heroes, we see that they have entered the dungeon's boss room. It looks like a forest, so Hibiki wonders if they're still inside. There's even a sun, so Claude explains that everything in here is artificial. He says that the spaces that dungeon bosses occupy exist in a separate domain. This one is a forest because it's the most advantageous for the Silver Emerald Wolf. Veen wonders where the boss is, so Hibiki activates his world map. It shows the location of the 3 wolves. There's a level 25 and a level 23 close to them, and then another one at a good distance away. Hibiki is shocked when he sees that the far one is level 43. Claude points out that they know what their attacks look like, but they should still be cautious. Hibiki reveals that the 2 close ones are approaching, so Claude gets ready. Our hero points in the direction of the wolves, so Lillian uses a spell to bring them out. Claude takes them both out with one attack, and he amazes the others. The level 43 is approaching now, and it starts off with a magic attack. Lillian falls while running away, so Hibiki goes to help her. He sacrifices himself so he can throw her to safety, and he gets swept away by the attack. Lillian tells Claude that she's fine, but they got separated from Hibiki. Claude wonders what's going on, because this enemy shouldn't have that kind of attack. Even Veen says that she senses something very unusual. Claude wonders where they took Hibiki, and he's surprised when the crest on his hand begins to glow. It points directly into the forest, and we find Hibiki all alone. He activates his world map and finds that he's pretty far from the others. Just then Sabo warns that Hibiki's detect presence skill has detected the enemy. Hibiki's then terrified by the level 43 boss. It doesn't just have a high level, because for some reason, its urge to kill is unusually high. Hibiki wonders what he's supposed to do against this thing, because he's just an appraiser. He manages to dodge its first attack, but he has no clue what it's trying to do. Sabo points out that it's trying to trap him, so it can end his life. Hibiki ends up getting trapped, and the wolf covers itself in its vines. Its attacks are ferocious, so Hibiki has to skate around to avoid them. Just then he hears Claude's voice saying that he's outside. Lillian uses Flare Bomb to destroy the fortress, but it doesn't work. Claude can't pierce it either, so Hibiki wonders how strong this thing is. Sabo explains that it's because of the enemy's inherent skill called Personal Space. It creates a space that blocks any uninvited physical object from entering. Hibiki continues to dodge attacks, and he wonders what he's supposed to do. Just then Veen tells him to call for her using Summon Sacred Beast. Hibiki summons her, but for some reason a different Sacred Beast appears. He uses his shiny cage ability and says that they should be able to hold the beast. This little creature's name is Kate Sith, and Veen wonders what it's doing here. Hibiki's confused as well, so Kate Sith tells him to look at his hand. He explains that Hibiki is not using the Contract of True Loyalty correctly. Hibiki has no idea what that means, but the cat tells him not to worry about it right now. He says that defeating the wolf would be easy, but he wants to help Hibiki in a way that will come in handy in the future. He formally introduces himself and says that he's a sacred beast of light that rules over contracts and serves the great god of magic. He uses a skill called paper reading, which gives Hibiki a proper understanding of what the Contract of True Loyalty is about. Hibiki fully understands, so the cat leaves. Our hero's caught off guard because the cat leaving also canceled its shiny prison. Hibiki knows that he can't beat this thing himself, but he has a new ability. He activates Contract of True Loyalty, and he summons his knight. It turns out to be Claude, who absolutely destroys the wolf. Claude holds up his crest and declares that no wall can ever keep them apart. The beast is still alive, and Claude says that there's a 50% chance that he can beat it. He doesn't intend to lose, but it's going to be a hard fight. He is caught off guard when Hibiki says that they will do it together. Hibiki uses another aspect of the Contract of True Loyalty called Level Trust. This allows Hibiki to transfer over his levels to Claude, and he can feel his strength leaving him. Claude is overflowing with power now, and Hibiki's left at level 1. Claude is now level 74, and he declares that their chances of winning are now 100%. He unleashes one massive attack, and it blows everything away. Hibiki got thrown further than anyone, so the others rush to his side. The wolf is defeated, so Hibiki picks up a stone that it left behind. He wonders what it is, but the chief god immediately screams for him not to touch it. It's too late as the stone begins to glow. A voice acknowledges that she just lost, but she says that it's a good thing that she prepared some insurance. Hibiki recognizes her voice, and a flashback confirms that it's Ival. The others can tell that he's in danger, and Claude tells him to let go of the stone. Unfortunately, Hibiki's out of time as the stone activates a teleportation trap. The stone is stuck on Hibiki's hand, so he can't let it go. Sabo activates the escape skill, but it fails because of unknown external interference. Hibiki's friends call out to him, but it's no use. Just then the chief god declares that he will not allow this. All of Hibiki's stats start getting consumed to try to power the escape skill, but it keeps saying insufficient. One skill after another is consumed, and it's still not enough. All his most powerful skills are being used up, but it still doesn't work, and not even the chief god can understand what's happening. Finally, the skill called Dome of Dreams is consumed, and Sabo says it's sufficient. This means that the interference with the teleportation trap is successful. However, for some reason, Hibiki starts flickering. Sabo then makes a devastating announcement by saying that the chief god seals of reincarnation have lost all functionality. Hibiki's friends call out to him one last time, but he disappears. Up in the heavens, the chief god collapses to the ground. He's really worried about something, and all he can say is that someone's waking up. Elsewhere, we see the girl waking up, and she says that the chief god really is hopeless. Thanks for watching my recap. Make sure to like the video.